Good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. And it's a
good
great
morning. It's a great
better,
morning.
You're right. It's a better than a good morning. I don't disagree with that. Stan the Fan Charles, our chief grand poobah, back in studio with us for a Friday edition of the program. And yeah, what a day that was yesterday.
Good one. Good one.
You know, opening day is always special in Baltimore. Particularly in a city that only has two sports teams, and in a city that isn't transient. It is, even when there isn't hope, opening day is a day of celebration for us. It's our spring is here day in this city. It's the day that we all get together to say, hey, we've made it through the winter. Let's appreciate that. Things are going to be more pleasant moving forward. It means that much more in years like the last couple years.
When you got a good baseball team.
100%.
Yeah.
And obviously we added up to that yesterday with it's not just the team is good. We have a lot to expect. There's an ace in town. I saw a tweet that you sent yesterday, Stan, and I think it's the emotions that a lot of us have reflected on, that we have not known this particular feeling in a very long time. That young man right there, Never.
That guy?
He has no idea what it's like to have an ace. He's seen decent pitchers. You know, Chris Tillman was good.
Doesn't he go to live casino sometimes?
We were there last night.
There's
in fact.
aces there?
Yeah, there were definitely aces there. In fact, he had a nice night betting-wise last night, this guy over here. He had a nice day in general, in fact. Oh, he actually lost a couple of hoops once late, didn't he?
Yeah, Carolina. I was on Carolina, so I ended the day with a loss. But
I got knocked
the most
out.
part.
I got knocked out. I had Iowa State to finish in the Final Four.
Ooh, someone's odds tripled last night of winning the bracket contest, all the way up to 0.9%. So killing it over here, killing it.
No, it's funny that you bring up what I tweeted out yesterday. When I moved back to Baltimore from North Carolina, I had no idea what I was going to do. This is kind of before I started Press Box. So at that time, I started my own. It wasn't a podcast. What would it have been called then? Like in 2004 or 5, it was like my own website.
Okay, a
place
blog.
Where
A blog.
That's what it was. I was starting a blog, and one of my first columns that I wrote was that the Orioles needed at the time I called it a horse.
Right.
And I wrote that we should try and get, this is how naive I was back then, that we should try and get John Lackey at the time.
Well,
and he would have been a horse, and this guy's a better horse.
This guy is an ace in every definition of the word. He's an ace. The number of times Griffin actually sat together yesterday at the baseball game, and the number of times that we watched one of these curveballs, and it's just like, and we happen to be sitting in center field, so you had a better view, obviously, from where you were sitting. But
it's hard upstairs in the press box in the second row to really get the movement of the ball.
My God,
Luke was texting me
Stan,
about it. Yeah,
the number of times, the noises that we made, watching this, we were just the words don't even, I can't possibly comprehend. It was such a delight to watch that man pitch, and
not that it's that important today, but this notion that he is one and done in Baltimore and it's just business as usual that he's passing through. I'm not at all sure of that at all.
Stan, I hope you're right about it. I'm going to continue to I pray that you're right about that.
Look, we can. It's not just two people. It's not David Rubenstein and Corbin Burnes. There's a guy named Scott Boras that can muck things up, trying to make more money for himself and his client. But this guy's going to understand what this pitcher may mean. Now a lot can happen between now and the end of this season, but we'll see.
So I had somebody suggest to me this week, like, the way that you get it done is by, you go crazy with the year. You go short term, but you go crazy with the numbers. Like, make it something like 3 years, 135 million, something that
Boras can say, hey, I got him this.
The annual value is so crazy that Boras considers it a win. but you don't go into the territory of
7 years, 9 years,
I think it might have been my friend Rob Shields who said that. And I said, I hear you, and I'm certainly not opposed to that. But and it almost works perfectly because it lines up with the time that you have the young core. You have Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday. It makes all the sense in the world to try to line up with that with Corbin Burnes. The question becomes, and somebody could say Scott Boras had a rough offseason this year, so I don't know if he knows what he has ahead of him. But does he know that someone else is willing to go $45 million per year for 5 years moving forward?
Right.
So,
well, that comes into play with the relationship that may or may not develop between Corbin Burnes and ownership.
Sure.
That may end up, and the experience he has here in Baltimore leading us to a World Series, if that all happens, it's not easy for the guy to go, well, I'm going to go pitch for the, Arizona Diamondbacks or the Chicago White Sox. He may fall in love with this city.
I hope, I pray you're right. I am operating and will continue to operate as though it's a one-year thing, and this year is very important because it's the year you have Corbin Burnes. It would be delightful if it were to work out that Corbin Burnes would be here for longer than 1 year. And then, of course, you'd mentioned the name David Rubenstein, and that's the other layer of yesterday that made it a more unique and more special day. And, everybody seemed to play all the right notes over the course of the last 48 hours, saying all the right things, discussing winning a World Series. Michael Arrighetti. By the way, I think he is a really important part of this, too, because he's a little bit younger than...
He's a good bit younger. He's definitely the number 2 guy of the group.
And if he's got the money, and I think we believe that he has a good bit of the, maybe not David Rubenstein money, but enough money, the question becomes, is he sort of at whatever point David Rubenstein is
successor, the owner in waiting, so to speak.
So the notes of them wandering out the pickles and buying everybody a beer, they hit all of. Look, there's a lot to be proven from this ownership group. They have done nothing so far. All due respect, they've done is press conference, but what they could do in the first 48 hours. They hit all the right notes. They did everything perfectly to show we're excited, we're fired up, we want to do this with you, all of that sort of stuff. Now they got to back that up and prove that with what they do moving forward.
I met David Rubenstein briefly down in Sarasota, and then about 4 nights later, I texted John Angelos. I said, I saw you at the game yesterday. I said, but by the time I could break free to come down to see you, I didn't see you. I said, any shot you're there tonight? And he says, yeah, come on down in a few minutes. We'll be there. And he was sitting with 2 of the new owners.
Really?
He was sitting with Michael Smith and Mitchell Goldstein. And we started talking about fantasy baseball. And David Rubenstein mentioned it yesterday that Mike Arrighetti had to give up his fantasy baseball team.
In order to become an
owner. And these guys had to give up their teams as well. I have a feeling because all 3 of them work for Aras. It's called Aras Management or Aras Financing or whatever it's called. That's Arrighetti's company. I bet he had an intercompany
fantasy baseball league.
And it probably had to come to an end. But one of the really neat things...
It is Aras Management.
Aras Management. ARES,
yes,
correct. But one of the neat things I said to Smith and Goldstein, Mike Smith and Mitch Goldstein, I said, I'm just thinking about this. I said, you guys are from New York. David's not, but I said, you must be diehard Yankee fans. And Goldstein said, I was until late January 30th. He goes, now screw him.
There we go. That's hitting the right notes. Now you got to say that publicly. That's hitting the right notes.
But that was like Buck, longtime manager, not long, 4 years, I think, of the Yankees. And you always thought, that's got to be pretty special that he managed the Yankees. He hit that note very early on.
Oh, he was all over it.
He was all over that. He goes, I want to beat them every time I can.
All over it, and which really set the tone. It was part of the many things that we learned to love about Buck very quickly into his tenure. It was a wonderful day. It was a wonderful day, and as obviously it's been a somber week in Baltimore. It's been a difficult week in Baltimore, and I am not of the belief that anything sports-wise can change. It doesn't bring back 6 people who perished this week. But, it does go a long way to lifting the spirits of the community. And yesterday, you could just sort of feel it as you wandered around downtown. It was just a joyous, joyous day.
Yeah. It's part of the human spirit to want to move on and not pay attention to sad things all the time. That doesn't mean people don't care about the 6 people who died.
Nope.
But as you and I were talking off the air, the real miracle there is that, it wasn't 55 people or 80 people.
It's been the most conflicting feeling that I have had throughout the course of the week, Stan, is how to talk about it, because it is a horrible tragedy and maybe the most miraculous thing in the history of our city.
I read immediately. I went to Google and started Googling the 1980 bridge collapse in Tampa, St. Pete, and it was very similar. The difference was this was before cell phones, before tech, electronic moving communication moved as fast as it does today. That was 7:30 in the morning. A boat hit. I think it was it was in terrible weather conditions. It was rocking the boat, and they couldn't control the boat, and it hit the bridge there, which was called, I think, the Skyway Bridge.
Okay.
And they had 135 people perish in that at 7:30 in the morning. The miracle here is that somehow in the last couple minutes, they got the word out that the state police were able to stop traffic both ways on that bridge. That is unbelievable.
Utter and complete miracle.
When you watch that video they show of the collapse, just moments before it, there's a huge truck going across there.
I mean, seconds.
Yeah.
And it's been so conflicting. I keep trying. When we talk about what a miracle is, I know it doesn't feel that way for the families of the 6 folks who passed away, and I don't ever want to lose sight of that 6 people died, and that is horrible. But my God, I'm telling you, even by the time we got in here to do the show, because we're still gathering information, just the thought of, because you're not really comprehending, I guess I really didn't see that many cars. Because you see so many of them passing. It took until the governor said something in the press conference for it to strike me, because we started talking on that morning.
Right. You thought, Jesus, is it possible it was just a fluke that there were no cars on there?
When we all woke up, we were thinking, are some of our friends in that, are we going to find out that this is the worst moment in the history of the city, that this is the biggest tragedy, this is the Great Baltimore Fire level tragedy, to realizing, what a miracle, and what incredible work by everyone involved. It's been an unbelievable display to see that. Hey, government sometimes works.
Yeah.
I know we don't like paying taxes. I understand that. But sometimes the functions of what our tax money goes to, and I get it, I'm not trying to have a political conversation. Sometimes those functions work.
Yeah.
And when they do, I appreciate it a great deal.
All 6 of the people that perished are immigrants.
Yes.
Most, if not all of them, are from Latin America, Mexico, Guatemala, and all that. They were out there working for us.
Yes.
At
1:30
in the morning in the freezing cold. And the irony is, they probably were so cold that they finished up a patch or two. They said, let's get the hell in our cars and warm up for 10 minutes. And that's when this struck. It's just a very crazy thing. You and I were also talking. We do a great show before we go on the air.
We should broadcast.
We should
that,
do
maybe.
that. Yeah, we should do that.
Should
The 9:30 hour.
Right.
I notice already this morning when I got on 695. Now I come from Pikesville to here. You wouldn't think I'm impacted by this thing. The traffic seemed much more dense, like that they're just cars all around me, and you think about it, it may not seem like a gigantic number. 30,000 cars went over that bridge a day. when each of us is driving, 50, 60 cars more is going to really make the traffic much denser.
Yeah, I felt it. I was down at Archbishop Spalding the other day, and obviously that's a little bit closer to the bridge down there. But that's going to be the reality for some time.
Yeah.
And
by the way, it took 7 years for them to build what is now called what's it called, the new bridge, and it has a sky in it.
It's Sunshine Skyview.
Sunshine
Skyway. Sorry, Sunshine Skyway. Yes.
Right. The old bridge was just called Skyway. This is Sunshine. It took them 7 years from the date that the bridge collapsed in 1980 till it opened in 87. And you would think with technology
that you
and prefabbing stuff that maybe that 7 could be 4.5 or 5. Because I'll tell you, when the Army Corps of Engineers really puts their backbone to something, they move mountains. And then I read just a headline of an article yesterday that it could take a decade for there to be a new bridge.
You hope that the commitment that has been promised from the federal government will help with some of this and moving this process along, but yeah.
Well, if the government falls in the wrong hands, and I'll be blunt about it, things like saving Ukraine and getting this bridge built could fall by the wayside.
Stan, we're gonna do a lot on the program today. We will have Gabe Lacques from USA Today, MLB writer. He was there yesterday. We'll get his thoughts on what he saw from Corbin Burnes.
Is he a big lacrosse fan?
Ironically, I'm truly a baseball guy. Yeah. The irony of that. Of course, he doesn't spell it L-A-X. It's Lacques. But we will chat with Gabe Lacques. Later on in the program, Doug Glanville is going to join us. Well, he's going to join me. It wasn't even a Mike Tirico situation. He would have liked to have joined Stan.
Right.
It just didn't work out that way. We like Doug.
Love
Doug. Yeah, he's very good. We'll catch up with Doug.
What did you talk to him about, roughly?
The new kickoff rule in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
We wanted to know what he thought
the
about
recruiting
that.
success of Maryland of late.
Landed a couple of transfers this week. So we'll do that on the program today. Today's show is brought to you by Superbook, and I'm just going to warn you, those codes that we've been telling you. Glenn Clark 23, Stan Charles 23. This is the final weekend. This is the final weekend. If you've been thinking to yourself, at some point I'll jump on there, I'll take advantage of it. This is last call. Last call for you to take advantage of up to $250
using Stan Charles 23. Yeah.
Or Glenn Clark 23.
Use Stan Charles 23.
Well, it's fine. Use
really,
it.
We're down to the wire now.
You think that we're going to go back and check on Monday and see who won the race? Because we're definitely doing that. No, we.
Well, you got the show every day. I don't have the bully pulpit.
But you've got the very popular Ross Grimsley program. You've got that.
That is true.
You've got that going for you. So if you want to take advantage now. This is it. Last call for those codes. Glenn Clark 23, Stan Charles 23, Superbook.com. Download the Superbook app. Use those codes. Receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose. 4 hoops games tonight. Marquette, a 7-point favorite against NC State. I like the Wolfpack there. Purdue, 5.5-point favorite against Gonzaga. I think I like Purdue there.
What's the line?
5.5. Houston, a 4-point favorite over Duke. I'm nervous about
Tonight's
it.
Games, I feel.
It should be good.
Yeah.
Should be good. And Tennessee, a 3-point favorite over Creighton tonight. So
man.
That's what you got for tonight in the round of 16. You can bet it with Superbook.com and download the Superbook app.
I'll take Creighton.
Very interesting to see if Duke can hang with Houston.
Well, they got to try to get Houston in foul trouble. Houston's such a physical, aggressive team, and we saw that burn them, obviously, against Texas A&M. But that's what it requires. You got to get them in foul trouble in order to have the ability to beat them. So can Duke get them into foul trouble and make that more interesting?
And that game is much more of a man versus boys game. You know, in other words, the toughness or the question of how tough those young kids on Duke are. You know, and that they haven't played together for 2-3 years. You know, most of them are new this year, right?
Correct.
Like 5 or 6 new guys every year at Duke.
So that's what's going on in the tournament tonight. Before we get to Gabe Lacques, Stan, I've been telling everybody that starting today, you're going to be seeing some more press box related billboards around town. And if you happen to catch one, they're digital billboards. So if you catch it and you're not driving, because if you're driving, I don't want you to take a picture. If you're not driving, if you're out of your car, or if somebody else
Or
is
you're
driving,
a passenger in a car.
correct, or you're at a red light, and it's very clear that you're at a red light, snap a picture of one of those billboards, tweet me at Glenn Clark Radio, and someone who does will receive a $200 Ruth's Chris gift card. We'll put everybody in a hopper. We'll pull a name. Someone will receive a $200 gift card to Ruth's Chris, of course.
Where's the location?
Yeah,
I have to leave
Stan
early.
is ready to duck out of
I have
the
to leave
show
early
try to
today.
go get the Ruth's Chris gift card. I don't blame you.
I'm not eligible, am I?
This is not technically. This is my contest. This is not.
Oh.
This is Glenn's personal contest. We're not running it through Pressbox. We are running it through Glenn Clark. So I believe I am the only person that is not eligible.
Did you get my picture yet?
What's that? Oh, the one that you sent?
I
No,
had
not
I had my wife take
weird.
it.
I haven't received it yet. Of course, whether you're celebrating a special milestone, entertaining clients, or simply enjoying a night out, count on Ruth's Chris to deliver to you the finest steaks, the best service, and a level of hospitality that has made Ruth's Chris one of the most revered names in steaks since 1965. Make your reservation now at ruthschris.com. So,
Ruth's Chris has been around that long, since 1965. Wow. 60 years close.
I'm trying to think of when the one in Pikesville opened. What year?
It's probably 12 or 15
That's what I was
years
thinking. It was
ago.
somewhere in that range. So you can win that $200 gift card to Ruth's Chris. One of the things that you'll see in the billboard is this sign that's now behind me here on the wall that says "Never Lose Ever," which you've seen me tweet after Orioles games for a number of years. And we're going to do this every day where whoever the man of the match was from the previous game will put their face up on this sign, and we'll have fun with it the way that we did with the Lamar meter for years. And, of course, not bad, Griffin. There was really no controversy yesterday. Look, it was a great day for a lot of people. It was, Adley Rutschman set the tone early, the big home runs from Santander and Cedric Mullins. Menace Jorge
Mateo.
Early season Jorge Mateo is a menace. Early season Jorge Mateo offensively. Defensively.
How about that Keegan Aiken?
Keegan Aiken came in, gave him a nice inning out of the bullpen.
He doesn't even look like the same human being that he did.
I know you have been raving about Keegan Aiken
He
for
looks
some time.
absolutely
You
fabulous.
have been raving about him, and I look forward to seeing more of him. But there was no debate about who man of the match was yesterday. It was, of course,
Adley Rutschman.
no. No. It was, of course, Corbin Burnes. So, man of the match, never lose ever. Corbin Burnes goes up on the board, and we will do that throughout the course of the season.
That was fun. I like that.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed that, too. I like this bit. I don't know why. It's not significant in any way, but I like the bit. I like it having it right there.
It seems like you'll fit about 8 players on there. Maybe 12.
I think we're just going to leave up the one from the previous game. I think it's just going to be a reflection of the man of the match.
And,
Although we should keep a standing.
Yeah.
Maybe we.
Well, will we
add
leave
that.
one person, once somebody makes the wall, they just get a tally, or?
We can think through this.
And
we can think through this, Greg.
Maybe I made Burnes too big, but he
Stan's
also might be
point,
the biggest.
Perhaps the current man of the match goes there, but anyone who's been a man of the match could
Is
be
a
displayed.
smaller in a smaller
Yeah,
picture.
right. Could be displayed elsewhere on the poster,
Yeah.
something along those lines. I like
Sorta
where your
like
head's
the
at.
Ohio State helmet.
The helmet stickers.
where they got the
100%. The Buckeye. You get a Buckeye. That's exactly what it is that you get. So
only we'll get an Oriole.
we would get an 100%. So are you suggesting that we put stickers of Orioles players on your head? Is that what we should do?
There,
You're saying maybe on Monday?
I think the whole roster should go up there, and then
Then we just
each
move-
one gets an Oriole on top of their face
for however many times they've
Yeah.
won man of the
Yeah.
match.
Yeah.
These are all decent ideas, and I will think through some of these ideas
That's
this
an
weekend.
that's an indecent idea.
So far, we just got Corbin Burnes
I like that.
celebrated as
Yeah.
man of the match today, and my God, he was great. All right, Gabe Lacques will join us in just a second here to talk more about the greatness of Corbin Burnes and what it does for everyone. And you could feel, look, opening day is always going to be intense, Stan, but you could feel how in tune the crowd was
Oh my goodness!
with Burnes specifically. And I say that because normally when you're doing things offensively, the crowd is electric, is into it, but you could feel the energy of how the crowd was engaged with, I don't want to go pee while Corbin Burnes is pitching.
Right.
I don't want to go get a hot dog because I would miss seeing what Corbin Burnes is doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, it was a level of engagement from the crowd with a pitcher that
we haven't seen. Yeah.
I could not possibly. We were into it. Every pitch, every at bat.
A little bit more intense than Eric Bedard.
Oh, just slightly.
Yeah.
Just slightly. Well, Eric Bedard, my God, the thought of 6 innings.
Yeah.
Like, Eric Bedard, someone said that Corbin Burnes went 6 innings yesterday. He was like, 6? He was terrified at the thought. Joining us now from USA Today, he is MLB writer, and he was in Baltimore for opening day yesterday. He's Gabe Lacques, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Gabe, it's Glenn and Stan the Fan Charles. It's always great to chat, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Eventful opening day and a successful one for Baltimore. So, kind of see where it goes from here.
Gabe, what Stan and I were just talking about, it's hard to really put in. We all knew Corbin Burnes was good, right? Like that was why everybody was so excited. But something about, for me, I was actually sitting in the crowd. Stan, of course, and you were watching the game from the box, but to see the crowd and the way that this fan base was engaged with every pitch that Corbin Burnes was throwing and the reaction, it's just something that we have not seen in Baltimore in decades. This is I don't even know. I'm almost afraid that I'm going to traipse into complete hyperbole discussing it, right? Like, it was electrifying seeing Corbin Burnes do that yesterday.
I think this was the first time I saw him pitch in person since he became this Corbin Burnes. And it was kind of startling to see in person just the utter dominance and efficiency. That's really hard to come by these days with just the way hitters are trained, how patient they are, a pitcher's ability to get swings and misses in the zone or to keep them looking. You know, his curveball was so devastating against those guys, both to land it for called strike threes and to get swings and misses in the zone. Along with a 95, 96 mile an hour cutter. That was just kind of jarring to see. So it's all of a sudden you're like, okay, this guy is really good. And the downstream effect that an ace can have on an entire staff, not just the bullpen but also the starters. I mean, it relieves such a strain from them that they all can kind of take a little bit of a deep breath and know that it doesn't ride on them, because these guys are still kind of developing in a sense and finding out who they are, or coming off of various either injury situations or their roles have been changing so much that they haven't been in like a good 2 to 3 year groove. So it's pretty wild to think of just how important that acquisition was for this team.
In the story that you wrote for USA Today that we'll link up on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio, my favorite quote was Ryan Mountcastle. That was a pleasure to play behind. Like, what this does for an entire team, that they recognize this is a step beyond. To take nothing away from the seasons that Kyle Bradish had a year ago, which was phenomenal, and Grayson Rodriguez, who was spectacular in the second half. But this is just something else that we're talking about, and to sense that they recognize that and what that does for an entire clubhouse, I really think it goes a long way in whatever it's going to take for this team to take that next step towards winning a World Series.
Yeah, and they, you can feel it if you're on the field, I'm sure, every fifth day when you go out and not only do you have a really great chance to win a game, but to the point Mountcastle was making, the game moves, quickly. You don't worry about, a pitcher falling in too many three ball counts, all this. It's, you see that dominance, and in some cases, guys getting overmatched in a sense. Yeah, it wasn't a great Angels lineup beyond Mike Trout, but they're professional, very professional hitters. They've been around enough, a lot of them, and it was really something to see. So yeah, it's there's nothing quite like that feeling every fifth day of, okay, our guy is going today. This is going to be fun.
Looking at it, I looked up Mike Mussina's game log in 2000. The last 2 games he ever pitched for the Orioles, and this is, to me, you date back to then. That's the last time we had a guy like this. 7 innings against the Red Sox at Fenway Park. 5 hits, no runs, no walks, 15 strikeouts. The next game against the Yankees at Oriole Park, 6 1/3, 6 hits, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. So in 13 1/3 innings, he gave up 1 run, struck out 22, and walked 1.
That's okay.
That's what aces do, and that's why you don't ever let them slip out of your grasp.
Yeah, and to your point, as you guys were chatting about Eric Bedard, it's been 2 decades, and maybe I don't want to forget a guy. I don't want to forget a year, say a Chris Tillman was good, that kind of thing. But you look at the Ponsones and the Daniel Cabreras and the pre-Cub Jake Arrietas, and it's just been a litany of just disappointments, and that's some of that may ultimately have been laid at the feet of organizational development, all that kind of stuff, because obviously some guys had success elsewhere, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's a long time, and that's you look at the teams of 2012 and 14 and the wild card team, and to a slightly less extent last year, their successes came, I don't want to say in spite of the pitching, but they definitely were not conventionally assembled pitching staffs. Especially last year when Bradish was kind of doing it for the first time. Kyle Gibson was the veteran innings eater, which is great. But he's going to give you 6 innings and 4 earned runs, which is fine. Grayson Rodriguez just making his debut. They won 101 games with guys not like fully settled into who they're going to be and kind of at the peak of their career as starting pitchers. So it's always hard to win when that's the scenario. When you've got a nice little machine rolling, and that's not to say that the Orioles do at this point, because obviously we need to get a couple times around to see the rest of the guys in the rotation. But it just makes winning so much easier. And then you pair that with a lineup that Patrick Sandoval's not a bad starting pitcher, and just the way they kind of chewed through him. It kind of boggles the mind, certainly.
One other question about Burnes, Gabe, is what does the presence of someone like him do to the rest of the starting rotation specifically? It gives them your take on that. What can he mean to Dean Kramer and Tyler Wells? And Grayson.
Right, and these guys are even better off than they were a year ago, because last year was kind of their transition year. I don't think they really could have used him last year. Not to say that he was available last year, that the price would have been stomachable for Mike Elias, but I think he can still have that effect where and it really shouldn't make any difference. There should be no difference in how Dean Kramer does if he's pitching out of the 2 or the 3 slot, or if he's pitching out of the 4 or the 5 slot. But it kind of does. It's just, and I know that, analytics might not necessarily go in that range, but it is a mental game for sure. And these guys will certainly feel it. And it is such a cliche, but it is kind of true. The kind of the passing the baton thing in a rotation. Well, this guy pitched well, and we have this internal competition, and I want to pitch well. I mean, some things are such cliches that you hear them enough times that they have to be at least a little bit true. So, to have that guy setting the tone, and if Grayson Rodriguez, makes kind of the projectable, anticipated steps forward in year 2, that's suddenly a pretty significant presence at the top of a rotation. And then 3, 4, and 5, kind of fall in line there. And that's without talking about what John Means and
Bradish.
Kyle Bradish may bring to the table eventually, So it sets things up really nice, And again, not to project too much about one game, but we do know a good bit now about 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it's all pretty encouraging in the big picture.
He is Gabe Lacques, USA Today MLB writer. He's with us here on GCR. Gabe, I don't think the Orioles are going to win every game. I don't think they're going to win every game 11-3. Although that would be fun if they did. It would be a lot. It would be a lot to enjoy. But I think the takeaway from a lot of people is that it's okay to believe that this really is how good the Orioles are. Like, this is not that they won 101 games last year, and they should be better this year. Like that, I'm not saying they're going to win 101 games again because it's really hard to do that. But like, I think it's okay for Orioles fans to believe, no, this is not a fluke. This is really who this team is, and other, teams in other cities are going to be very fearful of when the Orioles come to town.
Right, and you just watched the way they played yesterday. That read that Gunnar Henderson got going first to third on the kind of the dying quail.
That was a great read. Great read.
Right, Rutschman got on base 4 times, I think, scored 3 runs, drove in 2 runs, and it's interesting to see the generations. You got the old guard with Mullen, Santander, Hayes, and then you got kind of the middle group of Urias and Mateo, and then the young, just really outstanding young players of Henderson and Rutschman, and then the next generation. And it's interesting to just see the depth and how kind of formidable it can be. And Austin Hayes was talking yesterday. He was asked, what does this good spring training mean? Because it doesn't mean much usually. And the thing that jumped out at him was, okay, you're going on a long bus trip. You're going down to Fort Myers. It's the B squad. And suddenly you look up at the quote unquote B squad, and it's like, oh my gosh,
right. These guys are good too.
Itself is a really good team, So the depth couldn't be much better. And that's again, no assumptions here on how the real rookies are going to do, or if there's going to be any slippage in the younger guys, and a sophomore year for Gunnar Henderson, but no indications that there will be. And this is the thing, like, you're not counting on any one thing to project exactly as you would expect or to pan out. They can afford to have some slippage for a guy to have an off year, and the depth is such that they're probably still going to be all right in that lineup.
Yeah, it is insane how much they have, and again, that's still with Jackson Holliday to come on top of that, right? Like, it is, and Kobe Mayo maybe to come after that. Like, there is still there are still more pieces that could be a part of this down the road, which is really what makes this so crazy. Gabe, is there obviously, we joked earlier on that, hey, Keegan Aiken looked great. We didn't, the Orioles bullpen, heck, Corbin Burnes probably could have gone another inning if necessary yesterday. It's just that the game was so out of hand that why force the issue? I would assume that's still the one thing that you would probably like to see to get more of an answer about with this team is what this bullpen looks like when they're pressed into more significant duty moving forward.
Definitely, and especially the year-to-year volatility of relievers. It's always always kind of tricky. Craig Kimbrell going on almost 36. And I think everybody has a realistic expectation. Okay, he's going to be a ninth inning guy. He's going to be dominant a lot of times. He's going to give it up sometimes. Nobody's expecting him to be Felix Bautista, but to be a relative late addition Craig Kimbrell is I think people would probably be pretty fine with that. Similarly, Cano, I mean, again, his stuff is so dominant that it should play pretty well in year 2. And then, again, you're looking for repeatable situations from Danny Colon, Big Mike Bauman, that kind of realm down there. The guys that maybe some of them were on the shuttle here and there. You're asking them to kind of slide up a slot with Bautista out and things of that nature. Perez was always a key guy. Had his struggles a bit last year, but kind of got back on the beam and really devastating lefty weapon. And then Dylan Tate, really interesting situation to consider. He got up back on the mound yesterday a little bit of a struggle, but it's been quite a while since he's thrown a big league pitch. So and again, we're talking about the luxury of what they have, which is to say that you're not going into the season with Dylan Tate as your 7th or 8th inning guy. You're going in saying, hey man, welcome back. Let's get you acclimated again, and let's see, what kind of ceiling you can reach this year. Again, that's what the luxury is of having a deep team and having a well put together team, is you can slot guys in one spot and let them kind of grow into something perhaps even better. So that's the best case scenario for the bullpen, is that the back end is as good as you might anticipate, and then in that middle realm, guys kind of play up a bit.
Gabe, one of the other parts of my question earlier about Corbin Burnes and what he can mean, we've heard now Dean Kramer is aiming to throw close to 200 innings. How much does that mean to the bullpen if, say, the starters collectively pitch another 200 innings this year?
Yeah, I mean, it is such a significant advantage over your rivals. You talk internally, and of course it's you kind of worry about yourself first. But so few guys are pitching 200 innings this year that or in this day and age, that if you have two 200 inning guys, that's kind of remarkable. 5 guys pitched 200 innings last year: Logan Webb, Zach Gallen, Garrett Cole, Mike Elias, and Chris Bassett. So if it's a similar scenario like this year, if you have 2 guys hit that, you're kind of commanding the market, and you immediately you don't have to be a math major to realize that you are giving your bullpen so much more of a breather than every other team out there. And again, that's the kind of thing that makes a big difference in September and potentially in October, when you're not necessarily spitting oil with guys at the back end of the game if they haven't had to make 70, 80 appearances in a season. It's very significant, and it's good that's kind of a priority of Kramer's, because that's where he can really bring value to a team, is just to be a quality start machine. 6 innings, 3 runs, maybe touch the 7th inning every once in a while. Yeah, that would be a significant boon to this club.
Gabe Lacques. It's at Gabe Lacques. That's LACQUES. At Gabe Lacques on Twitter is how you follow him. USAtoday.com. You can check out all of his work. Gabe, always appreciate it, man. Thanks for spending a couple of minutes with us. I have no doubt that we'll be chatting as baseball season goes along.
Seems like it. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks, Gabe. Thank you.
Gabe Lacques with us here on GCR. Today's show also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Proud sponsor of County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the website to find out all the latest in high school baseball and softball, as well as boys and girls lacrosse, scores, schedules, updates, and you can play Pick'em, everything you need to know. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by Toyota. When we come back in, Stan, you and I have not been together since the passing of Peter Angelos, so let's spend a few minutes chatting about Mr. Angelos. And actually, we have not done a show since the decision was announced that Jackson Holliday wasn't going to make the opening day roster. So let's talk about those things when we come back in. Stan the Fan is here for a Friday edition of GCR.
Hey, it's Jeremy Kahn. This postseason, bet in person at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks with locations in Canton and in Towson, and enjoy the best in-class sports wagering experience at their state-of-the-art facilities, bringing an unmatched sports betting thrill.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Who is Andy Pafko? Who is that?
Late 50s, early 60s outfielder.
I don't remember Andy Pafko even a little bit. Doesn't.
Why would you? You weren't born yet.
I mean, that is fair. I was not born yet. Stan's playing the grid this morning here on GCR. So today's show is also brought to you. You know what? How about this? We just remind everybody, Stan. So when did you and Eric this week? Did you end up doing a show?
No,
or just,
we did not do
that's
a
what
show.
I figured with it being opening day.
Yeah, we'll be back next Thursday.
Okay.
And
so
Ross and I and Luke will do Monday.
So check out Stan the Fan every Monday with Ross Grimsley and Luke Jackson, and then every Thursday with Eric Garfield. Lots of great baseball conversation. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports is how you can watch it live. If you miss it live, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan,
By the way,
yes?
Pafko worked.
Pafko was a Brave and a Cub.
Yep.
And I'm guessing got you a far lower percentage than Greg Maddux would have.
He was 0.2%.
I can't believe that there are 0.2.
My grand total, though, was 44 because I thought I was going to be sneaky. It was asking for a Brave and a Brewer, and I used the legendary Hank Aaron.
I thought
and
that
it was
one was going to bite you in the
36%.
butt. The one that was coming, a few that came to mind to me, Jason Hayward obviously came to mind for me for that one. Probably would have gotten a good percentage. And then, of course, a current Oriole, Craig Kimbrell. Craig Kimbrell.
Trey Mancini. Well, he didn't do
I was going to say, did Trey Mancini play for the Braves? Did he?
No,
No.
sorry.
Yeah, I was like, did I? Yeah.
But Kimbrell, you're right.
Yeah, Kimbrell, both the Braves and the
Kimbrell, you're
Cubs. Stan, of course, over the weekend, Peter Angelos passed away. And look, this obviously was not sudden, not something that we didn't know was coming for some time. And clearly his family was prepared and part of the timeline with the sale of the team. It is a complicated conversation to discuss Peter Angelos. One thing that I talked about this week is I was terrified that our city might end up being embarrassed by a reaction pregame yesterday when there was a moment for Peter Angelos and like a handful of idiots thought that was their moment, and I was very thankful that was not the case. I'm very, well done, Baltimore, not screwing this up or even allowing a small, because I never thought it was going to be a large group of people, but you just always worried that like a small group of people in those circumstances can end up reflecting more poorly on the whole, that even a very small group of people could end up making it look like to the general public, what the hell are these idiots in Baltimore doing? So I was glad it was no one that was acting like that. It is a complicated conversation to talk about Peter Angelos, someone who meant a great deal to this city. I mean,
did some remarkable things in the city.
Unbelievable list of things that he did for the city, but someone who had a lot of missteps as a baseball owner, and a lot of them as the years went on. You, I know, were able to, have a lot of conversations with Peter Angelos over the years. Yeah. Give me your reflections on Peter Angelos, the man, and Peter Angelos, the baseball owner.
I think you said it well. The man was certainly much bigger than his ownership of the Baltimore Orioles, but I would say that overall, the years of ownership they did not shed a good light on Peter as an owner, And the concept that comes to my mind, because I was thinking about it, if I write something in the next couple days, because it is a complicated topic, is I think he bit off more than he could chew in owning the Baltimore Orioles, and that's a phrase that's been playing around. I don't think he quite understood what that stewardship of the club meant, and I think too many times we got his personal, beliefs on things. He would get caught up in wanting to outdo the Yankees, so he made a terrible signing of Albert Bell. But as fans, you want an owner that's willing to go to that
sign
extent.
somebody. Yeah, remember that the Orioles team was losing Palmeiro and Alomar, and we needed something. We needed something that was going to get people to say, okay, here's why we can still believe in this team.
Yeah. So, the times, I think Peter, for him, winning was about being right more so than winning, and I think you look back at the Davey Johnson misstep where Davey, no question he was not supposed to have been directing fine money to a cause that his wife was involved in. But that's the type of thing, to me, if I'm looking at the larger picture and I've just been through 96 and 97, I sort of pat him on the back and go, don't let that happen. I'm adding a year to your contract, or something like that. Instead, we ended up with a manager, and the mixture with Albert Bell, wasn't right.
Well, those moments, the two moments that I think ultimately defined, before the stretch of losing.
Yeah.
The two moments that set the tone for Peter Angelos, the baseball owner, were John Miller and Davey Johnson.
No question about it.
They set the tone for it. Almost became irreparable between Peter Angelos and Orioles fans because of those two things. And then to follow it up, obviously, with the stretch of, woeful baseball in Baltimore afterwards, that sort of even the stretch of winning that came after that could not rewrite the opinion that Orioles fans had because of those three things. There's your point is well taken, and Peter Schmuck and I were talking about it the other day, that in his mind he believed he was right. And that was the problem. The problem was there wasn't enough of, hey, there's 100 other people here that want to tell you why maybe this isn't right. I decided this was right, so this was right.
Yeah.
John Miller was not. I wanted him to be more defensive of the Orioles. I wanted to hear him.
I was through that the other day with somebody, and I'm telling you point blank, what really galled Peter Angelos is John Miller's appearance when he showed up at the ballpark, okay? He would John was rather rotund.
Yeah, correct. He's a large man.
And he had long hair, which I'm not against long hair, but the combination, he was rotund, and he would show up wearing, like, shorts and flip-flops to announce his baseball game. And sure, is he entitled to that? Yeah. But Peter Angelos didn't have to like it. This is a guy, he's working for a guy that wears a suit everywhere he goes. There was that famous scene on television when Peter Angelos was in Atlanta, and I know my brother was sitting with them. It was on national TV. Peter, like in 100-degree temperature, wearing a suit to a ball game. But that's who you were working for. Would it have killed John to wear sort of, just sweatpants and a shirt, instead of, and the flip-flops? I'm telling you, it wasn't that he was that critical of the team. I guarantee you, Peter was not listening to John Miller on the radio that often.
So it's fair, and it's something that I had heard before, and because it isn't in public record, but I hear what you're saying. To the same point, he was still beloved.
No question about it.
And that's where the measurement of maybe you have a point, right? But what you're missing is, even if you do, you're not going to win this one. You're just not. This is a figure that is too popular, too respected in this town.
Look, the way to have handled that back then would have been to call in Ron Shapiro, who was John's agent, and say,
Can we please,
can you talk to him? I'm willing to add 3 years to his contract. I'll make it an 8-year contract. Can you please ask him, just say, I find it offensive the way you dress going to the ballpark.
It just,
nobody wants to have that conversation now. It's like an HR problem. You might see somebody that gets collagen on their lips, and their lips are puffy. You can't talk to them about that and say, I don't like that here. I had an incident that happened with me 30 plus years ago. I had a baseball scout that I was very friendly with, Dan Carnival. And he pulled me aside one time, and he said, Stan, he goes, I've been around the country. This is when I was really hot as Stan the Fan. He said, I've been around the country. He goes, you're really as good as anybody I've ever heard on doing this. He goes, but I'm just telling you, I want to tell you a little story. And he told me about a scout that worked for the Kansas City A's under Hank Peters, who was the farm director. And Hank Peters went to Mr. Finley, the owner of the A's, said, Joe Bloom down in Sarasota wants you to fly down to Florida to see a player, to see if you want to sign the player. Joe Bloom, and I'm using that name, picked Charlie Finley up at the airport. He went to see the player, and he flew back to Kansas City. He said, I want you to sign the player, fire that scout. I don't like the way he dresses. He came out, his clothes were wrinkled and all that. People don't take the time to have a brief conversation with you about,
Sure.
And what Dan Carnival was telling me is you're being judged by the way you dress and the way you look. And I took it to heart to a certain extent, but, I was going to baseball games.
Right,
so a lot of times, so I was never taken as seriously as if I had sat in the press box and worn, a dress shirt and slacks.
Yeah, try a tie, things like that. And I understand that. And again, I'm not suggesting there isn't a point. It's just
it's a point you can't.
You're not winning.
Win against John Miller.
You're not.
It's one thing. Nobody was going to attack.
Yeah, a
Charlie
baseball
Finley
scout, right?
For firing this.
Correct. But no one knew who it was. This is John Miller, who had become the voice of the Orioles post Chuck Thompson. He was the one that everyone here loved. And at a time where baseball, and to be fair, Kevin Brown has done a very nice job of settling into that role, and of course, Gary for years before that. But there is a relationship between a community and a baseball broadcaster that is unlike anything else in broadcasting. Drew and I were talking about this the other day, and I don't mean this. I like Jerry. Jerry's a good guy, and he does a good job. No one would give a rat's ass tomorrow if someone else was calling the Ravens games. No one not related to Jerry Sandusky would care if they changed, because Scott is one of the most beloved broadcasters in Baltimore. And when they moved from Scott to Jerry, nobody blinked. It's just the relationship with football broadcasters is
vastly different.
Is almost non-existent.
They only
within
come,
a city.
Even in the old days, you might have listened to games, the road games you listened to. You know what I mean?
Like it doesn't matter, but
doesn't
the
matter.
relationship
But the baseball announcer on radio
between a city and a baseball broadcaster matters. It matters.
No question about
they
it.
feel like a part of your family. It's why
it was a bigger misstep than the firing of Dave Johnson.
I
or
think
the
you
pushing out
could
of Dave
argue
Johnson.
that. I absolutely think you could argue that it was a bigger mistake.
My biggest, to me, the biggest mistake Peter ever made was letting Mike Mussina ever get to free agency.
It was interesting that it felt like that was what was coming out when you were talking about it yesterday. Like it really, and you know that it has hurt me personally. I don't like talking about Mike Mussina with Orioles fans because I don't even have that much of a relationship with Mike Mussina. We've had a couple of conversations over the years. Obviously, I know, Mark very well. Like he's a close friend of mine. But I've never had much. It's just not Mike. Like he's just not that guy. Like he's got a few people that he's very friendly with, and that's
We're
about
not going to be those people.
That's about the list. Like that's just the way that it goes. Our friend Craig Heist is on that list of people that he's very friendly with. But that's about it. It hurts me whenever we get into a Mike Mussina conversation because the fact is what it is. The fact is Mike Mussina took a discount to stay in Baltimore.
The first time.
Pissed off the Players Association to take a discount because he wanted
Specifically Tom Glavine, who was a big shot at
100%. Cared so much about this and this team and this franchise, and we've allowed him to be vilified over the years. It infuriates
the other larger thing
me.
is that discount included the number of years that he was given, and the club had an edict that under Peter, pitchers don't get more than 3-year contracts. So Mussina signed a 3-year contract. He was obedient to Peter. And then what do? Within a year, they signed Scott Erickson to a 5-year contract.
Right. Almost to,
And I brought that up. I'll never forget. It was at McCafferty's when I was doing a radio show there. I brought it up to Pat Gillick. Is the club going to right this wrong? And Gillick said, we're looking into it. And I'm telling you, Peter, a contract was a contract to Peter.
Correct. You signed the deal.
You signed the contract. Whatever else happens, we'll handle it at down the road. And they let him get to free agency where he shouldn't have really been at free agency. He should have had another 2 years. And that might have his age may have drastically limited what he could have gotten anywhere anyway. But to let your best pitcher like this, and that's very important. I mean, Corbin Burnes is going to go to free agency. I have no doubt about that. But this ownership group, the new ownership group, they know about valuation. And they don't have a poorly misguided notion that, pitchers only pitch, every fifth day.
Why should I pay
Why
you?
should I pay them?
Right. No, and that's a soundbite that stuck with us for eternity with Peter Angelos and became almost infuriating to talk about. But the Mike Mussina thing, it pains me.
Yeah.
It really does. There's not a lot of things in sports that give me actual pain, but knowing that it does, I've said this privately a lot. I haven't talked about it publicly. No. It hurts Mike Mussina. It does. Yeah. I mean, he's an adult. He's not he's not crying himself to sleep or anything like that. But it hurts Mike Mussina, the relationship that he has with Orioles fans. It does. It hurts him. And the fact that he has not been overly welcomed over the years, that there is a distance and it bothers me. It bothers me greatly because I didn't get Jim Palmer. I know as a broadcaster and a personality, I didn't have that. The only pitcher I had in my life as an Orioles fan was Mike Mussina. Yeah. And it bugs the hell out of me, the relationship that is shared between Orioles fans and Mike Mussina, because I adored Mike Mussina. Love Mike Mussina. And it hurt me the way it hurt everybody else that he became a New York Yankee. But I do not blame Mike Mussina for that in any way at all. He did everything he could, literally including taking a damn discount and pissing off Tom Glavine and the Players Association to do it, to stay a Baltimore Oriole. And yet we have allowed him to be vilified over the years. It's infuriating to me.
So it's sad that outweighs our talking about Peter Angelos.
The man.
Because the man was a very different, he had a great sense of civic pride and national pride. I mean, he was a patriot and cared deeply about this city, this state, and the country. And, for that, we were lucky to have him in our midst.
It is a very complicated conversation, and I think it has been handled well largely by those that have written about Peter Angelos this week and opined. It does not require you to lie. It does not require hyperbole. It does not require you to say he was a great baseball owner.
Right.
You can be honest about Peter
Right.
Angelos when you talk about him. You can say he was not a good baseball owner, but that's only part of the story of Peter Angelos the man. It is totally acceptable to say those things as we reflect on someone's life. And his life was very significant, extraordinary.
If I can get a word in edgewise, not that he would want me to do that, this anger that people have here in this town for John Angelos is very troublesome to me. I know he's the son of a rich guy, and a lot of times that means he had an easy life and all that. It probably wasn't the easiest thing in the world to be Peter's son, and I think John Angelos stepped forward and took the reins of the ball club at a pivotal time. I'm not saying they would have gone out of business or anything like that, but to navigate what he navigated through for five years and come out with the team he has, given the economic issues that he had. Remember, they didn't bring any cash in. They might have brought in Major League Baseball money, and I'm not saying it's not still large, but nobody went through the turnstiles in 2020. And somehow they were just supposed to be throwing money here and there, and he didn't have the money. It wasn't his money. The family's money was not accessible to John Angelos. It had to go through the mom, and it was complicated. And, this anger that people have at the end around where he tried to overplay his hand here is sad that there's so much vitriol aimed at John. John's a big boy. I'm sure he's not losing any sleep over it like Messina isn't.
Right.
But it's bothersome to me that there's so much negativity.
You and I have talked about John a lot, and I know I certainly know that you have a relationship with John, and I try to get to know John a good bit, and I've had some really pleasant conversations with John, and at times was very encouraged by the conversations that I had with John. I think one of the most encouraging conversations I had at the start of the rebuild process was listening to an actual vision and, hey, I hear you. And, I thought he actually at the time was willing, like, instead of being bothered by these difficult questions, and I think that was where things started to turn in the last couple of years. And we'll talk, like, he heard them and understood they weren't coming from a place of anger. They were coming from a place of, hey, we just want to know what this is going to look like moving forward. Right. That's where we are. And it did seem to start to turn in the last couple of years, and as you and I have talked about, unfortunately because of his own missteps. Like, he never needed to undress Dan Connolly the way that he did that day. It was not necessary, and it set the tone for him getting angrier and angrier every time somebody else would bring up the look at the books. Like, John, nope, you said that. Like, that was from you. You said that. Nobody else did. You said, why are you angry at other people for asking you about the thing that you said? And I don't know if it was just maybe the difficulty of the sale process or the difficulty of, the process with the state, and it wore on him. It is a shame that it ended up leading to the missteps that it led to over the last couple of years.
I think the missteps, of the land grab, if you want to call it that, those were born of desperation. John desperately wanted to own this baseball team. In other words, he did not want to sell the baseball team. And that was a play that if he had somehow been successful in strong-arming the governor and the state legislature, he would have had the wherewithal to then go out and raise other money and mortgage things and leverage things. But once that game was over, and the governor looked him in the eye and said, "This ain't happening," and the state legislature said it's not happening, he immediately club was sold about a month
as we
later.
learned, he was working. David Rubenstein was going to be a partner, a minority owner, a significant percentage, but a minority
would own 40% of the
correct.
team. Yeah.
But as you point out, those conversations, then it became clear that the route to go was to sell the entire.
And I think the mom wanted
Georgia,
the thing, out of their hands, And John will probably participate in some respect. I'll never forget. You remember when Eli Jacobs bought the team? Was it Eli Jacobs was successful? I'm trying to remember when Bill DeWitt was trying.
Okay.
Oh no, Bill DeWitt was he was bidding for the team.
Right.
And then he ended up as a partner in Angelos' thing. And then 3 days after they got the team, it was announced he's leaving the group or something like that.
I will be interested to see. I do think that this is the weird part to me. Like, here's where I'll be defensive of John Angelos. And I'll call him out on the missteps because I do think that it was a bad couple of years for John Angelos, and it just made things worse, right? Where I'll be defensive of him will be it is hilarious to me the way the Orioles fans react about concerts. Like, there's almost this bizarre, maybe John Angelos will put another concert in. Good. What are we talking about? What bizarro planet am I living on where this has become a negative? Right. And I think what somebody would say is, well, it was just the juxtaposition of here's another concert instead of signing a baseball player. Like, more concerts are there. I said this in the print. By the way, the print issue of Press Box is still available at your neighborhood Royal Farms and the hundreds of locations where we find Press Box throughout town. We did our advice for David Rubenstein in this issue, and I said that. Like, concerts are a good thing. What are we doing? Like, how more events, more. I was talking with Kerry Watson from the Orioles a couple weeks ago about they're doing this golf thing at the stadium where you can go, hit golf balls out of the upper deck at the baseball stadium. I'm a terrible golfer, but even I am sort of intrigued by it. Like, well, that'd be kind of neat, right, to go hit some golf balls at the stadium. Down in D.C., I have taken my family almost every year to this Christmas light maze that they set up at the baseball stadium every year. It's awesome. It's a wonderful family event, and it's an opportunity for more people to touch the baseball stadium that aren't baseball fans. That's a good thing. How separated are we from reality to not recognize that these are good things? There should be more concerts. There should be more events at Camden Yards. That's a good thing for our community. Another date where there's 40,000 people downtown wandering over to restaurants, stopping by Atman's Harbor Point ahead of time to take advantage of the delicious corned beef and the soups. And
I see what you did there.
Look at what I did there. That's a good thing. We love Atman's. Who couldn't love Atman's? They're wonderful. AtmansDeli.com for daily specials. If you haven't been to the new Atman's on Harbor Point, my God, get there already. It's perfection.
Great place to watch an Orioles game.
Wonderful place to watch a game. They got the
bar.
Full bar now. And they have a pickle bar, Stan. I like the pickle bar even more than the real bar anymore, but it's great that they have both. Sorry, I tried to do that smoothly. These are good things. So I am in favor, because it's a passion of John Angelos's, I am in favor of John Angelos continuing to be involved in concerts, in special events for the stadium to create more opportunities for there to be people coming downtown throughout the course of the year.
And more revenue for the Orioles, or whatever subsidiary they want to call it.
I hope, because it was something he cared about almost in direct opposition to his father, who we famously remember said, we're not going to turn the stadium into a honky-tonk. John Angelos got that one right. Concerts are a good thing. More events are a good thing. And even if you don't care about the revenue of the baseball team, it's a good thing for our community. People in beds in hotels downtown, people going to restaurants. These are good things. How displaced from reality are we when we make fun of the idea of the Orioles hosting a concert? Jesus. Yes. Host 6 more. They're not enough. Sorry, I just went on a tangent there. I kind of lost it for a second. It's just
and so when Peter took over to buy the team, there was like excitement in the city, right? Like when
absolutely
when he
there was
bought
excitement.
when he bought
There was
the team.
I don't recall a tremendous excitement.
It wasn't like
Peter.
this.
There was this notion, and I do have to give props to my friend Tom Lavera.
Yes, he has called this out.
He's called it out, and he's absolutely right. There was no hint. The club had been drawing $2.5 million plus the 5 years leading up to Camden Yards because people wanted to be in line for tickets.
Yep.
And they had nothing but sellouts the entire time until the team was sold at bankruptcy. And this notion that he saved the team for Baltimore.
I have
not
no
true.
idea where that has come from.
It's just not true.
If the argument is maybe that in more recent years, like with the Nationals coming, that there has been.
I'll even go so far as not to bring it up too much, but my advice to David Rubenstein was to let the Oriole Hall of Fame be pure.
We talked about that,
Larry,
it's time for Larry.
I
Lucchino,
nominated in the old days, 15, 18 years ago, I nominated Edward Bennett Williams to be in the Orioles Hall of Fame because had he not signed that lease that allowed William Donald Schaefer to move forward with building at Camden Yards, then you might have had, like where almost like an Oakland situation. When are they going to do a stadium? And it could have.
But no matter how popular the team was, without
the fact that he signed that lease when he knew he was dying, and would only lessen the value of the team to lock it into one place. To me, he was an Oriole Hall of Famer.
That's a very strong argument, Stan. It's a very
and they looked at me like I had 4 heads.
I know the other one is Larry Lucchino. Let's have that conversation. It's time to have that. It's time to have that.
I nominated him too.
Yep, it's time to have it. But no,
their answer was to take away our ability to nominate people.
I would say, and I was very young, Stan, so you can tell me that I'm wrong. I do think that there was a sense of happiness that it was a local who was owning the team.
I'll go along with that.
There was a level of we are glad that someone from here is the owner of the team.
But Larry Lucchino was a very popular front man. He owned a small percentage of the Orioles, which he then parlayed to a larger percentage of the San Diego Padres, and then he parlayed it into a very valuable piece with the Boston Red Sox. But he was very popular, and he still belongs in the Orioles Hall of Fame for what he did in building Camden Yards. The piece of history you can't change is that Peter didn't build Camden Yards.
Yes, he arrived in 93.
Yep.
He was the owner in 93. The stadium opened in 92. And there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of fuzzy math going on. You point out like what Tom Lavero said. There's been a lot of, he kept the Orioles in Baltimore. What do you mean he kept? Their lease was in place. Like the Orioles were not leaving Baltimore. It's almost bizarre how we've allowed that to be a fact that has entered into the zeitgeist. And then there are other people like, he built the stadium. What are you talking about? He built the stadium. He didn't build the stadium, which doesn't mean there weren't good things at the and again, this is where it gets tricky because then if you take those things off the table, somebody would say, he did nothing. Well, no, that's not true either. When he came in as owner, he had an investment into the ball club, and they, in those early years, had an actual opportunity at winning a World Series. They didn't, but they had the chance to. And maybe the first really significant thing that he did as owner was refuse to play scab players during the strike. And you could say it's easy for people to say, that was just because he had an economic interest in making sure that Cal Ripken broke the record, and so he needed to protect that. But it also spoke to his...
He washed the police records when Cal was arrested.
That's right.
Remember that?
I do remember that. But at the same time, he also was somebody who stood up for labor. So it's easy to say, well, he only did that because of Cal Ripken. I don't know that that's true. Like, I don't know Peter Angelos. I didn't know him well enough to be able to, but I do know that his track record is someone who stood up for labor. So it's totally possible that even if that wasn't at hand, he still would have said, I don't care if you hate me, to the other owners. I'm not going to have scab players play for my team.
Yep.
So those things do matter when we talk about the history of Peter Angelos. Like, they do. But we don't need to lie about things either and suggest that there was something more afoot. On a much lighter note, you had started to waffle last Friday. Last Friday when we were sitting here before,
right?
Like, you started to say, I guess Jackson Holliday is going to be on the team.
It looked like he was. Look, I pat myself on the back a little bit for being right,
right
on
initially,
that, but then Tehran and Colton Wong,
right, both not on the team.
I don't see either of them on the team.
Neither
so
one of them is on the team.
You win some and you lose
well,
some.
and I assume that part of that with Tehran is they're so confident about John Means' timeline as he's starting the year on a rehab assignment, and confident enough in Kyle Bradish's timeline that they didn't believe they needed an emergency. Their in case of emergency break glass for Cole Irvin is John Means. Like, that they think that it's going to work out time-wise, that we're not going to make a Cole Irvin decision before 3 or 4 starts into the year anyway, and 3 or 4 starts into the year, if it's not going right, we think John Means might be available.
The one last little surprise they had was the addition of Tony Kemp and the fact that Nick Vespi made the team over Jake Webb.
Well, but Nick Vespi, I thought, was only because of the bereavement.
Oh, that's right.
It's a bereavement.
Is it a paternity or
I think it's bereavement, right?
Or
is it paternity?
I saw bereavement. It might be paternity.
All right, I'll have Griffin double check that.
Okay, that's true. I forgot.
The Tony Kemp thing is a tough one to swallow, in particular for people that wanted Jackson Holliday on the team.
It was paternity. My bad.
Paternity. Okay, sorry, paternity. That one's tough because it's we know the answer on Tony Kemp. It's sort of the Colton Wong conversation all over again, right?
Like, adds a little bit different dimension than Colton Wong.
But it's
he was actually a useful reserve for about 3 of his 4 years with Oakland. Last year was a horrible season, and he didn't have a good spring in the Cincinnati camp.
Are you? Your argument initially was very much baseball and not service time when we talked about Jackson Holliday.
Yeah, I really don't think it's about service time at this point in time. It might have been had David Rubenstein not been taking over the team, but Mike Elias was completely aware of that. I don't think they were, and I've talked to Peter about this as well. I don't think, or not, actually, I actually listened to something he did with somebody on BAL yesterday or the day before. I don't think it has anything to do with saving $20 million 5 years from now. I think they want the player to really hit the ground running at the major league level. And they felt that there was enough of what they saw at AAA last year. And remember, Brandon Hyde reminds us all the time about this. Buck Showalter reminds us about this all the time. And that means that Mike Elias is aware of it, that you don't always take at face value what a player does in the month of September or the month of March. That granted he had a good spring, but they think he can do better. And I think he will not suffer in any regard from the fact that he went down to the minors.
So that part we unquestionably, agree with. I don't think it's going to impact. And also, I think it's extraordinarily unlikely that whatever – I would rather him have been here for a couple of reasons. The biggest one, for me is the PPI thing, and I'll save that for a second. But I would add in, if there's going to be an adjustment period, I'd rather that adjustment period be in April and May than into the summer. And I think it's the Gunnar Henderson thing from a year ago where – get through it and then have as much of the guy that's now adjusted as you can possibly have for the rest of the season.
Again, there was a little bit more reason. That's not apples to apples, though. It's a different situation when you win 101 games.
I hear you. I hear you.
In
part
22,
of it,
they won what, 70?
No, they were competitive
82?
until September.
Right.
I can both agree with that and say if I had more confidence in the options that you were presenting, I could. Like, Jorge Mateo is clearly not a good defensive second baseman. They're playing him at second base because they wanted him in the lineup against a lefty yesterday. It was an adventure defensively with Jorge Mateo, right?
Why was it an adventure?
He threw the ball away on the double play. He
didn't feel the Hayes had the guy out at second.
And didn't catch the ball. Like,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it that way. I will 100% agree with you. I have
Maybe
no idea why Westberg wasn't playing second base.
And I think this is, and by the way, it's specifically because he was DHing, right? Like, I can understand. This is where the conversation does get complicated to me. If the argument for Westberg is we don't want to move him back to second base because he's going to be this team's third baseman when Jackson Holliday gets here, so we want to get him comfortable at third base, I'll hear that, right? Like, I'll hear that argument. But then somebody has to play second base.
Right.
And this goes back to why, like, this is all kind of
I don't know what that was about. I'll talk to Brandon the next time I get to see him.
It was
strange.
I also understand Jorge Mateo is going to be in the lineup against left-handed pitchers.
Yeah.
I get that. It's not really a knock to me about the idea that Jorge Mateo is going to be in the lineup. Fully understood. But if the second base defense thing is the part that matters, Jorge Mateo is not a defensive second baseman. Like, we have nothing that suggests that. This is the same. Like, if the problem is that Jackson Holliday hasn't played enough second base, Jorge Mateo hasn't played any second base. Like, what is that? So that part's a little confusing. But it always still comes back to the PPI program, which is if Jackson Holliday gets here and wins Rookie of the Year or down the road is a top 3 voter and MVP, you're going to cost yourself this draft pick in the process that seems.
I'm not diminishing a draft pick. Right now, they can't figure out where they're going to fit Connor Norby, Kobe Mayo, Jackson Holliday, Kyle Stowers, Heston Kjerstad. This is a team that is not exactly devoid of prospects.
Sam, I think that it was funny because somebody in the aftermath on Friday brought up to me this point, which was whatever trouble you might feel about Jackson Holliday, the bigger question is, if Jackson Holliday's not your second baseman, why isn't Connor Norby? What possibly more could Connor Norby have to do to show you that he's ready to be a major league second baseman?
Well, what he would do would be in the way of Jackson Holliday.
And it's an argument, right? Like, it's certainly an argument that you could make.
Yeah.
But then if he's just never going to be here,
he's the guy that has the gripe, you know.
Like, it is befuddling. He's 23 years old. He's
done everything.
He's done everything. Yeah. He's played lots of second base. Yeah. What you don't have either you don't want to play Westberg because you want to get him to third base, which again is confusing because he didn't play third base yesterday.
I really don't think that's. Have you read that somewhere?
No, it's just been something that's been discussed. Like what?
I don't know who it's been discussed. I haven't heard that once until today's show. I haven't heard that they don't want to play him at second base. I think yesterday they wanted Mateo maybe to feel more part of things or something. You know, I don't know, but I don't think it has to do with they don't want to throw Westberg at second base because in 45 days he's going to play third base. Then why have him on the team? You know.
What do you mean? Why have Westberg on the team?
Yeah, I'm saying I don't believe that's the reason that he didn't play second base yesterday.
I don't know that it's the reason by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
I have nothing.
I don't think Brandon Hyde thinks that Mateo is a deficit at second base. I don't think he feels that way.
He hadn't started a game at second base. He hadn't played second base since 2021. That was the last time.
He played it in spring training.
He played it in spring training.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A major league game he had not played since 2021.
Jackson Holliday played second base in spring training. I'm struggling. I can't defend Jorge Mateo being a second base. I can't defend that. I could never.
I'm not asking you to defend it, but to come up with that. Who came up with the notion that they don't want to play Westberg at second base?
I don't know that it's a notion. I think there's a conversation.
You said
there's been
discussing.
There's been a conversation this week about whether or not Jordan Westberg should be playing second base when you need to get him comfortable at third base. Like that, if he's going to be your third baseman moving forward,
wouldn't you? If you want him at third, if you foresee him at third base, then DH Orioles.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's everything about yesterday is very befuddling to me. Yeah. It was a very confusing lineup, or positionally, it's very confusing.
But I've not heard that. No, and I'm not saying I'm the be all and end all. I've not heard that notion that they don't want to play Westburg at second base.
I don't know that it's that they don't want to play Westburg. I think
I
the
saw
conversation.
him play 3 or 4 games in spring training. If you don't want to have him,
I think it's the opposite. I think the conversation is, should he be playing third base if that's going to be his position?
I think the position he should be playing right now until Jackson Holliday is ready to come up is second base.
And so then
I think he's a Gold Glove caliber second baseman.
I don't know. I think he's a very capable defensive second baseman, right? But then you're going to go through.
Defensively, he is a great second baseman.
Are you going to go through a learning curve when then you send him to play third base on whatever day that is? Is there going to be an adjustment period at that point for him?
I don't believe so.
I don't know that there would be.
He played. How many games did he play third base last year?
Last year he played 29 games. He had 18 starts at third, 35 starts
18 starts
at
at
second
third.
base.
He was perfectly.
He made
fine
one
at
error.
third.
He was 0 errors at second base. He made 1 error at third.
Right.
One error, but in 18
Again,
games,
yeah,
that's a very small sample size.
You're off the track on it. He's an absolutely brilliant fielder, Jordan Westburg. He's absolutely phenomenal.
At this point, you can't argue. I mean,
I don't have anything that suggests that he's not a very good defensive player. I think the question.
I see the way he makes plays, and again, I'm not the be-all and end-all in baseball, but I'm just telling you, he's just supremely great at second base.
I have no questions about Jordan Westburg, the second base. I think we've said this a million times. If the answer was Jordan Westburg is your second baseman, everybody's good with that. I think it's a very unique question to you've committed to the idea of Jackson Holliday being your second baseman when he gets here. Like, that's been committed by this organization.
Mm-hmm.
They've chosen that. I think a lot of us thought the answer would always be Westburg at second base and Jackson Holliday would play third. But they've committed to the idea of Jackson Holliday being the second baseman. Right. So both of these scenarios, Ramon Arias was awful defensively at third baseman a year ago, was terrible. And it pains me because I'm a big Ramon Arias guy, and I was the guy that wanted to write about how great he was until I went and looked at the numbers and said, Jesus, it's not just he's not as good as he was the year before. He was miserable defensively at third base. Now, it's possible that it was injury-related and he could get back to playing that level at third base, but we do have a little bit more in 2021. He was also very bad. The Ramon Arias thing is very weird to figure out. He was awful defensively in 2021. He was really good in 2022, and then he was awful again. There's almost no in-between with Ramon Arias where he was like decent, he was either excellent for 1 year or really bad defensively in the other 2 years. Right. So you're accepting potentially a lesser defensive third baseman by playing Ramon Arias at third moving forward until Jackson Holliday gets here. Or if you want to mess with that and then say, go ahead and put Jordan Westburg there, you're accepting something lesser defensively at second base. And that's, I think, part of the frustration is if it wasn't going to be Jackson Holliday, why wasn't it a priority to get a better defensive second baseman that didn't have to be a starter all season long, could be a veteran that could come in and play for a little while and would understand at some point your role is going to be usurped because you're not an offensive player. We need somebody who's more of an offensive contributor. I think that's a factor in the Jackson Holliday conversation. They didn't feel that way, well within their right to feel that way. Doug Glanville is going to join us.
By the way, Westburg did wear number 11 last year.
Oh,
what number is he wearing now?
11.
Yeah, Griffin was convinced it was like, did he change his number?
11? Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Griffin and I had a fun time watching the game together yesterday. You know what? Griffin's a good time to watch a game.
Really?
I will give him that. Griffin's a good time to watch a game. He was into it, probably at times annoyingly so, but I like that. I'm in on that. There was a lot
never
of
a bad time to.
I did have a good time watching the game though with you. I did have a good.
Well,
time.
I did as well. So thank you. I appreciate you letting me tag along.
Tickets.
Glenn bought. Who do you think Griffin bought the tickets to the game?
He buys
we don't pay him. We don't pay him.
He buys tickets, but he's making a fortune.
Oh, betting. He did. He had a nice day. What you hit on?
Hit on my Adley hit and win.
Well, that was the one I suggested yesterday,
yes,
and that one was what ended up being -105.
Yeah. So that was good. But then the plus 400 parlay was the Orioles on the run line.
Yeah.
Adley 2 total bases and a Cedric Mullins hit, which turned out to be a pretty big hit. So if I bet a home run for Mullins,
that would have been a big one.
I decided I was going to take a shot at beat the streak again.
Oh, Griffin's all over that one too.
So I'm 1 for 1 so far.
Who'd you play?
Devers. He
Okay.
had a home run the first time up, I think, last
I went
night.
2 for 2 yesterday. I doubled down.
How do you double down?
You can pick 2 players each day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But if one of them doesn't get a hit, your streak's over. So
Right,
you have
I
to go 2
understand.
for 2. Yeah.
So if you had played 2, you'd be already going for number 3 today.
Correct. Or
Okay.
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who were your
How
2
many
yesterday?
can you triple down?
No, you can't triple down. You can only do 2.
Oh, so you could take 2 more
Yeah.
today.
I did Mike Trout yesterday and Freddie Freeman.
All right, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, we haven't talked at all. You know what? It's going to come up in my conversation with Doug Glanville. The thing from the Cubs-Rangers game last night, did
Yeah.
you see it?
Which thing?
The foul ball that they called a wild pitch?
No, I did not.
Okay.
See. Is
Can you
that the one that they're saying that Jonah Heim made a mistake on? Not
Jonah Heim was arguing it instead of,
instead of-
didn't continue the play.
right.
So
Everyone at the plate, well, not the umpire, I guess, but everyone at the plate knew it was a foul ball. I guess I got to watch
right
back
here,
the batter.
I'll pull it for you. You can see it. So this was in the 9th inning.
Right.
Oh no, this is the wrong thing. Hang on, that's the wrong thing. That was after the game was tied. That was something else that happened. Apparently, it's a very eventful Cubs-Rangers game. All right, here we go. 2-2.
Big ball don't lie.
Right, 2-2. Oh yeah, because the Rangers did end up coming back to win. So this is a foul ball. Jonah Heim obviously recognizes it's a foul ball. He's explaining it's a foul ball. Michael Busch just says, "Well, if you didn't call it a foul ball, I'll just keep running." Comes home and scores. That run, this play is
Was that
apparent.
not challengeable?
It's apparently not reviewable. And I'm going to bring this up. I'll give it away. I had to pre-record today with Doug Glanville before the show, so I've already had the conversation with him. He worked this broadcast for ESPN last night.
Right.
And
so it's good timing to have him on.
yeah, I mean, we talk more Orioles because that's what we're excited about. But yes, I wanted to bring it up, and Griffin and I were talking about it on our way back from Sports and Social last night. I understand this. Remember the conversation we had last week about the Kansas thing? After the block that was called a foul, when we look back at it. And the problem that people have is, well, if we make everything reviewable, these games are going to go forever.
Right.
So what do you do? And the answer is, right, but there's two. You would like to get every play right. You would like to get every call right throughout the course of a game. It's particularly difficult. This happened in the 9th inning.
When a run scores.
How do we put things into motion for the relevance or the significance of the play to say, hey, we got to do something here, because this could have been very, to Griffin's point, thankfully it's less embarrassing for Major League Baseball because
Texas won the game.
Rangers ended up coming back and winning.
What, did he pinch hit Jankowski in the bottom of the bottom
was
of
in
the
the
ninth inning?
Yeah, he hit the
and he hits the home run.
Yep.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, the balls, right? The balls. But, this is something that otherwise would be embarrassing for baseball. That you wake up today and this is what people are talking about after this great opening day and the start of the season, that all they're talking about is this thing you got terribly wrong in the one baseball game that happened to be on national television last night.
Right.
So how do you protect yourself from that? How do you put something into play? Well, we understand the argument of you don't.
Right, you can't make every play.
You don't want to just stop and watch a replay on every single play, but you don't. You have the mechanism to fix this. This shouldn't happen. We know it was wrong. We knew it was wrong pretty quickly. How do we make sure that doesn't occur?
Yeah.
I don't know how to define it, if it's a 9th inning rule or something like that.
Maybe there's a super challenge where it involves a definable close game in the 7th inning and
beyond. Yeah.
Manager has an extra challenge in his pocket or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's not crazy to me, right?
You get
that
one
or
challenge.
that you just say certain plays are only reviewable 7th inning and beyond. Something like that is only reviewable after the 7th inning.
At the discretion, if the score's 10-1, I'm not saying it couldn't lead to a 9-run inning.
Time run has to be on base or something, or at the plate. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
we got to figure out a way to make sure that these things aren't we should be past that in 2024. That games are defined potentially by obviously bad, incorrect calls.
I guess in terms of the grand scheme of things in professional sports and college sports, you would still call the use of instant replay, you would call it in its infancy.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, you're right.
Yeah,
That
and I think these are things. I think this is a great point. It's something we need to address.
Yeah, it's and I understand the point. I really
you
do
want
get
something in the first inning, but that could end up being the run that makes a difference.
And that's the difficult. Stan, that is the difficult part about it.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different.
I just you have an entire game afterwards to overcome. And
right.
I just feel like this is bad for baseball for this to be the storyline coming out of a otherwise great day and. Celebration.
As they said in the movie Chinatown, bad for glass.
Bad for glass. There
bad
you go.
For glass.
Bad for glass. There it is. All right. When we come back in, I am going to catch up with Doug Glanville. Today's show, actually, I just mentioned Sports and Social. We had a great night last night at Sports and Social. Griffin couldn't keep his heater going from baseball through the night of basketball. He had He had Arizona last night. He had Carolina last night. It was a struggle.
Did have UConn.
Yeah, that one was comfortable.
Yes.
That one was never much in doubt. Although Illinois didn't cover either. Did they end up covering at the end?
Well, yeah, because Iowa State was favored by a point.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Iowa State was favored. Yeah, so we split. We split for the night because I rode with you, not literally and figuratively because we also drove together. But we had a great time, and we're going to be back there for the Final Four.
Whoa.
The last four teams. Four teams. I got to make sure I'm careful. The last four teams.
The final couple basketball games.
Yes, the national semifinals. We will be back there next Saturday, hanging out at Sports and Social. Boy, they're really doing it up for that. They're bringing in a live DJ. They're bringing in cheerleaders. We're going to have great giveaways. I think we might be giving away some free rounds of golf next Saturday on top of everything else. Should be an awesome atmosphere. If I were you, I would reserve your spot and get to Live Casino and Hotel's website right now to reserve your spot to hang with us inside Sports and Social next Saturday for the national semifinals. Griffin is campaigning that one of the screens on the side also have the UFC fights up on it. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if he's going to win that battle, but
well, there's only going to be one basketball game one at a time. So.
It's true. There will be other screens available. Come hang out with us inside Sports and Social next Saturday night. Doug Glanville next. Stands here, Glenn Clark Radio.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Whether you're celebrating a special milestone, entertaining clients, or simply enjoying a night out, count on Ruth's Chris to deliver you the finest steaks, the best service, and a level of hospitality that has made Ruth's Chris one of the most revered names in steaks since 1965. Make your reservation now at ruthschris.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now, and on the cover we look at the promise of spring for the Baltimore Orioles as Todd Karpovich and others shine the light on the team's hopes to take the next step towards championship contention and what reinforcements could still be coming. Plus, Pressbox personalities offer suggestions to David Rubenstein about stewarding the franchise. Also inside, Bo Smolka on how the Ravens defense could evolve with new coordinator Zach Orr. And we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's programs across the state. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
If you haven't tried Goose Flight's lager yet, I'm not sure what you're waiting for. It's delicious. It's just an awesome beer for hanging out with friends. Everyone can enjoy it. It's a very drinkable beer, but we go beyond that. It's a beer that's doing good for people in need because $1.98 from every can sold goes to benefit the Goose Flights Foundation and the work that Tony Siragusa's family is doing to continue his legacy by providing non-emergency medical transport for those in need. So find out more about where you can find Goose Flights by going to PressBoxOnline.com/GooseFlights. All right, had to do this a little bit earlier on because of his schedule as he's getting ready to go do another game today, but an opportunity to catch up with ESPN's Doug Glanville right here on GCR.
Well, it's a pleasure now to be joined by one of our favorites here on GCR. Of course, a former Major League outfielder, but now an ESPN and MLB analyst and also one of the hosts of the Starkville podcast on The Athletic. He is Mr. Doug Glanville, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Doug, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Hey, Glenn, it's good to see you, man. It's been a lot of years, so always appreciate coming on. And, a lot of family in the East Coast and the Southeast area. So, and also just thinking about everybody in Baltimore with the bridge. So, a lot thoughts are with the community.
It has been a trying week, but obviously the Orioles provided a lot of much needed joy for people, and we'll talk a lot about that. Before we get to the Orioles, I know you had Rangers Cubs last night. MLB's got to do something. How can this happen? That we have replay, we have the ability to fix this, but we don't fix this because this one uniquely we're not supposed to be able to. This is insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, the tough thing that MLB has to deal with, and I do appreciate it. We have a rules call that we kind of go over before the season, so we understand the rules. And when you look at the bucket of unreviewable calls, the logic behind it is that, first of all, there's certain things that are kind of judgment, like, all right, that foul tip was obvious when you looked at it, but, what did he hear? It's like you're going off of the hearing and the sound, and you're like, okay, did he hear that? And then if it's real subtle and you're not sure on the replay, can you really overturn it based on, what can you overturn it? Because here's the problem. If you pick all these foul balls, right, all these subtle things, and the game, which is the fear, is going to slow down to a crawl. If you make everything reviewable to get all the calls right, your game will take 5 hours. I mean, and I think that's what they're balancing. And they know that there's going to be moments like that. Now, what could have happened is, maybe if someone came out on the Ranger side, or maybe they could have made the case and said, hey, check that with your crew. Maybe that would have been possible, because sometimes they can't review it, but they might be able to caucus over it. So, but it was such chaos when it happened, and Jonah Heim was so caught up in the moment as the catcher, he just, the runner came around from second base because he was arguing, and that's one lesson I always remember, even though the heat of the moment is hard, is you gotta play it out, even if the call's wrong. You gotta play out the wrong call, because now he's like, nope, pass ball, you didn't go get it, and guy scores from second. So, but I do think that's the problem. Making everything reviewable in every situation, there's going to be so many different appeals and challenges that you might run into some really time issues.
I hear exactly what you're saying. I guess maybe the answer would be like seventh inning and after something that
Right.
that avoids embarrassment, right? Like I feel like that's the
Right.
thing. We saw this in the NCAA tournament with the Kansas thing in the first round, where it was
Yeah.
clearly a clean block. Like I get it. There's so many things you can review, but some of them are going to be really embarrassing. What everybody's going to be talking about the next day. So how do we make sure we don't have those come up so it's not embarrassing?
Right. Well, and the other thing, Glenn, is like, look, I talked to these, the rules committee before, and they want to, they're very responsive. Like they want to get it right, and they're up against pace of play, they're up against tempo and rhythm. So, there's things that they're definitely balancing, and they're well aware of it. And I guarantee from this, they will look at it again. They'll think about it again. I think it maybe is a chance where all the umpires could have come together proactively without necessarily the manager challenging it, like informally challenging it. Maybe that's a way to do it. But they're very conscious of pace of play, because the way the pace of play went is towards the end of the season, the game started to tick up a little bit, time wise. So they cut off 30 minutes on average of all these games, but they're trying to. That's why the pitch clock went shortened this year. So they're very responsive, and I guarantee they'll have something to say about this.
All right, Doug, we are ready to start making our World Series plans here in Baltimore. It's one game, but everything that we were told that Corbin Burnes was going to be, he was that and more. He was taken out of the game after 6 innings. Otherwise, he might have finished with 20 strikeouts. He was that dominant yesterday. When the Orioles made the move for Corbin Burnes, did you feel like it could potentially be the last piece needed, or maybe not the last, but the biggest piece needed to elevate from good to having an opportunity to win a World Series?
I did. I mean, I was like, wow, that is a great pickup, a great pickup. You don't find a guy in that situation where he's available and he's an innings guy. He strikes out. He's got command. He's a great pitcher, And yeah, I thought that was such an incredibly savvy move by the front office, and just they played it out and they were able to make a move. This guy is tough, and like anybody else, you need to stay healthy. But I did a bunch of Oriole games last year, a Yankees series, and you just felt like there's that they need that one starter, and that's true for a lot of teams. The Dodgers needed that one starter last year with all their injuries. The Braves needed that one starter. It's not because these guys go 9. That's not the game anymore. But what it is that they go 6. They put you in a position to win, and they set up your bullpen as in the roles of 7, 8, 9. But they also save your bullpen.
Yeah.
Because the next game, now you're not taxed because someone went 2 1/3. That's what Burnes does, and it's a game changer. So, yeah, I mean, what a team! I mean, exciting. You got some young stars. Rutschman is just like every time opening day, this guy's like ridiculous. They're just a lot of fun to watch, and such a great fan base. Like I've done so many games there, and the Sea of Orange, and yeah, it's fun. It's great for baseball when the Orioles are good. It really is.
Doug Glanville is with us here on GCR. Doug, you mentioned saving the bullpen, right? Like if there's one concern we probably have about this team, it is the bullpen. And, maybe the answer is we don't need it, right? Like maybe the answer is the Orioles score so many runs and the starting pitching is so good that it's not that much of a concern. But this was a historic season a year ago for Felix Bautista. It wasn't just a good season. It was one of the greatest strikeout rates we've ever seen from a pitcher. Are you concerned, and is that something that you feel like they're going to have to address during the season again in order to make sure this is a World Series caliber team?
Yeah, well, and any general manager now has to obsess about pitching all the time, because it's so fragile. We saw the Cubs, Rangers, Justin Steele, phenomenal pitcher, turned himself into an ace, and then he gets hurt, right? I mean, it's just, you have to be ready, you have to be deep. They've had injuries last year. Cano, a lot of pitchers that go down. You try to keep healthy, but it's really hard to rely on these guys day in, day out. And as I mentioned, when you have a Burnes, you don't necessarily blow out your bullpen all the time. So that's a big thing too. I mean, the other aspect is, it's one thing to make the moves, but if you have resources, right? If you have the resources and the ability, the bandwidth to make the moves at the trade deadline right before, then you're not as concerned. You look at the Rangers last year. Yes, you wouldn't script it this way. Their bullpen was in shambles, but they had talent in there. They just kind of had to get the guys in the right spots, and guys like Josh Spores and Leclerc, they stepped up. So and a lot of guys seemingly came out of nowhere for Baltimore last year, right? So who's that guy? Who's the next one to kind of fill in? And then you just evaluate right in July. Say, well, okay, we need to make a move. Maybe they don't, and somebody emerges. So that's a fun team, and they're going to score runs. So that's going to also help a lot because you can like kind of do the Bash Brothers thing and be in a good position to win games and set up your bullpen in a different way.
Doug, were you surprised that Jackson Holliday wasn't on the opening day ride? Like, it feels silly to be talking about something right now. Look, the Orioles looked like they were world beaters yesterday, but there was some disappointment here about that, and particularly because it seemed like the momentum in the last couple of years had been for top prospects to be on opening day rosters, and it feels like almost every other one was on the opening day roster this season for every other team. Were you surprised by that?
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. I mean, it's not even so much that's a statement about deserving or having good spring, but it is different to get more games under your belt. And some teams like Baltimore may say, all right, they have like 35 shortstops and they're good. And they're good. So it's like, they're all these first round picks. Like they just have an abundance of wealth in that category. So what it does is it gives Holliday, who's he's a really young dude, a chance to kind of like work on all these other things and sharpen the skills. It gives you a little bit of want, like, okay, come back and earn it. Chris Bryant, I remember, MVP, world champ, rookie of the year. He went down and he had a great spring. He had 8 home runs and all these things, but he got sent down and everybody was really upset because, like you said, is it because of economics? Holiday's going to play forever. He's just a great talent. And I think that just shows you the confidence that the Orioles have in these other players. I saw Wyatt Langford for the Rangers yesterday, and once again, guy drafted like last year, dominated AAA and minors, and here he is. But you want to make sure when they get there, they stick, they stay, and they're just forever.
I get it. It's something that we'll be talking about eternally, obviously, because it brings up the service time conversation. But
yeah,
the good news is the Orioles are good, right? Like if they weren't good and he wasn't here, then maybe there would be a bigger problem at that point. Doug,
right.
Is there
with the service time, by the way, there's like now ways that you can sort of still wave into like arbitration. I'll have to check exactly the terms, but they're always addressing that in the collective bargaining. That you hold them back for 2 weeks, but there's ways based on, I think it's a list, that they can still get into that position. So it's not as much of a manipulation as it used to be. There's not as much bandwidth to do that.
To your point, if he ends up being a top 2 finisher and rookie of the year, he's going to get his year back at that point.
Yes,
so
exactly.
And that would be good news for the Orioles, because it would mean he would have been really, really good at the same time.
Exactly.
Doug, anything else that would concern you about this Orioles team? Like, I mean, it's a team they won 101 games last year. I don't know that we can expect that again because it's just such an absurd number, but is there anything else that would say, hey, in order for them to take that next jump to being a World Series winning type of team, I need to see this still?
I mean, on paper, like you said, solidifying the bullpen, is possible, recognizing the fragility of health and knowing that you probably need some extra depth when it comes to like even your rotation. Those are things, they're kind of minor. I mean, you just have to look around and say, well, they're in a really tough division. I think that, you can't control that per se, but that's a little bit of the X factor because, they steamrolled a lot of teams last year. It's hard to do again with that caliber of a division. Toronto is outstanding. I mean, they have some health issues as well, Romano and so on. Yankees, are just the Yankees. They're going to always be. I think Boston is really good. I think that entire division is a nightmare, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So I guess if there's a concern, it's like, that like you could still play really well and still lose to these teams. So they just gotta get in there, and I feel like with the Orioles from last year, just getting in and getting back there, and not wanting to get wiped out with the Rangers, that's a lot of motivation, and they're just a year more experienced, and that's what makes them so fun.
Is there any team elsewhere in baseball that you don't think everybody is paying enough attention to that you are convinced is going to be a major factor this year?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you look at least in the American League side, a lot of them reside in that division. I think people are kind of aware of it. I don't count out the Houston Astros. I think they're going to be dangerous again. I mean, first of all, the Rangers are the champs, so you got to knock them out. But I think the Houston Astros are going to be kind of pretty tough. And because I'm looking at this team, like, wow, they got some tools here. They got some people. They picked up some pitchers.
Nice to add Josh Hader, right?
Right, exactly. Right. So I mean, we were talking to Craig Counsell, the manager of the Cubs, and we talked about managing, and he's always so humble. He's like, well, there was one thing that was kind of simpler because I only had to really worry about 8 innings because Josh Hader. It's like it is something to be said. So I don't count them out. So I think you have to really watch them. And there's some young, fun teams like Cincinnati, and but I don't see them as like, okay, they're going to win the World Series. But I do think I think there's just a lot of exciting teams this year. I don't sleep on the Padres. I know they're counted out from last year. They got a really great lineup. They got Dylan Cease. Don't sleep on the Giants. They went and got Snell, and I mean, I think there's a lot of really good teams, and I'm excited.
Yeah, the NL West suddenly loaded with pitchers, like all of the pitchers.
Right,
and
Diamondbacks. Yeah,
in the NL West. Hey, Doug, can I ask before I let you go? Do you play Immaculate Grid, and how often, if you do, have you used yourself while playing Immaculate Grid?
I do. It's not like it's not every day, but I get the Twitter or the Xverse or whatever, and I see people. I try to find a spot, but I'm also careful not to play myself because the more you play, then you raise your
percentages.
Yeah, so it's like that double-edged sword. Like I want to be rare, but then I'm insulted that I'm rare, right? But yeah, I love that. I love that game. It's so cool, and I just racked my brain. Like Roxy Bernstein, who I call games with.
Yeah,
we drove from Dallas to Houston or Houston to Dallas, 3.5 hours doing games, and we spent the whole time Immaculate Grid, and we did really well. We put our heads together, and we crushed it. So
that's awesome.
I think it's a lot of fun.
At Doug Glanville on Twitter, of course, the Athletic and the Starkville podcast. When we seeing you next on ESPN, Doug?
I got Sunday in Los Angeles. It's Cardinals-Dodgers, so the Ohtani show will continue. So we'll see. That will be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Doug Glanville, always appreciate it, man. It's so good to catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
All right, Glenn, anytime.
Like I said, I understand Doug's point about, the games can't drag on for forever. It just, there's got to be an in-between between those two things. It can't be that the games can't drag on forever is why, well, sometimes we're just going to have to get it badly wrong. Like, there's just got to be a way to figure out how to handle that.
I heard Kenny Smith talking about this in basketball, and Clark Kellogg was championing you can't have every review. And he said, I'm not talking about review, Clark. And he goes, I'm talking about challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. That's how you solve it.
Yeah, that is a good question. Like, why is not everything challengeable? Like, why couldn't that be challengeable?
Well, I don't think it's that everything's challengeable. I think it's like you give a set amount of challenges, and you got to really weigh carefully.
But to the point, like I don't think they could challenge that last night. Like, why wouldn't that be? That's
I'm in agreement.
Yeah,
with
like
you.
what is it about a foul ball that you would say we can't have that be challenged?
Right, that seems fairly significant. Yeah,
I'm very maybe to your point, it's just as simple as adding.
You're not going to challenge it.
In the second inning,
you're not going to challenge you if nobody's on base.
Correct,
but it seems like it ratchets up its importance when a run scores.
If you make a play like that challengeable. Right. Your point is well taken. Likely in the second inning, on a 1-1 count, there's almost no chance that a manager is going to choose to stop the game and say, it should be, 1-2, not 2-1 in this count with nobody on base. Like, almost no doubt that's not going to be a thing you're going to have to deal with. So it's just the uniqueness of this situation to protect yourself should it be a spot like this. All right, when we come back in, we'll get a tidbit, we'll get tubular, and we'll start to wind things down. Don't forget, countysports.zone is where you find all the latest in high school sports news, scores, schedules, updates, pick 'em. It's all there, and it's proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. One more segment to go stands here on a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Jeremy Kahn here. The ultimate sports betting experience in Maryland is at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook. Join me at either location in Canton or in Towson and place your bets in person and be a part of the action. It's the best in-class sports wagering experience, complete with the ultimate TV package, ensuring you can catch every game all day, every day. Their state-of-the-art facilities bring Las Vegas energy right here to Maryland just in time for postseason football. So visit the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton and Towson and elevate your game day experience and hang out with me to bet, watch, and win at the Turtle.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
Winding down for a Friday edition of the program. Stan's been hanging out with us this morning. You're going to be at the ballpark this weekend?
Yes, I will.
Both days?
Definitely Saturday.
Okay.
Not sure about Sunday.
So Saturday is they start. Remember this year everything's at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock for Saturday
When you
baseball.
say everything, all Saturdays.
I believe that's the story, right?
Oh,
that
really?
wasn't that wasn't maybe unless national TV dictates otherwise.
Okay.
I think is
and are weeknights Monday through Thursday going to be 6:30 or
6:30.
all night games?
I think it's just Monday through Thursday. I don't think it's
think it's
Friday.
Monday through Thursday.
Games are still 7 o'clock. But all of the Saturday games are 4 o'clock, except for
June 29th against Texas.
That's a Fox.
Okay.
So unless it's a national TV,
So can they get flexed or? I guess.
I believe that Fox has an option in the second half of the season to switch games on Saturdays. I think ESPN's got the same option for Sundays in the second half of the season.
I'm just curious. The Monday through Thursday thing, is that all season?
All
or
season,
just,
including the
okay,
summer.
Including
the summer. They're not going back to 7 o'clock,
7 o'clock.
Monday through Thursday
The
during
home
the
games,
summer.
yeah.
You know,
Yes,
I was talking to my brother last night, and I said, I think it's a good idea or something. He says, you know, they used to start games at 7:30. I remember they used to start games at 8 o'clock at Memorial Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that predates me.
Yeah. Well, a lot,
8
of
o'clock.
my life.
That's
predates.
fair. That's fair. 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yikes.
And I remember it specifically because there was a local lawyer, Frank Cucci was his name.
Ah.
And he used to wear a white suit.
They didn't call him the Hoochie Coochie Man,
No,
did they?
I don't know what they called him, but I will tell you this. My Uncle Herb, at 10 o'clock, no matter what the score was, he sat behind the Oriole dugout on first base side. He stood up and he walked out. And he always said,
no matter what, this is when I expire.
2 hours of baseball is enough. And my uncle knew him. And I remember it was 10 o'clock was the time.
Griffin and I, so we were going down to the live casino last night to watch the basketball. And so I told him, that was part of the deal yesterday. As I said, Griffin, you can have my other ticket. We'll make a day out of it. We'll do all this together. And then I don't drink anymore, so I'm not going to the bars before the game. If you want to have a beer, I'll drive, no problem. Part of that was because I assumed we weren't going to both want to pay for parking downtown.
Right.
Well, as it turns out, we just parked at the other casino for free and went ahead and walked. So I could have made Griffin drive.
Right.
It would have been no problem. But at the game, you got to.
Even if they carefully went over their video, they could spot you.
So
a spokesperson for Maryland Live.
Hang on a second.
Live Casino Hotel.
No, it's actually the other casino that we parked at, obviously.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah. You're saying Live's gonna
they're going to come after us?
Yeah.
Well,
I would. I'm going to report you.
Well,
yeah.
I signed.
Come on.
Here's the thing, Stan. I actually signed up to be a rewards member, which provides you
with
parking. Now, yesterday they weren't checking. They were not checking yesterday, but I signed up to be a rewards member just to make sure that if that were an option,
You're gross.
that I would. What do you mean? I'm allowed to do that. That you could do the same thing if you want to.
No law broken there.
No law broken whatsoever. It was a perfect call. It was a perfect. There was no quid pro quo. No quid pro quo. The call was some people are saying it was the greatest call in the history of calls.
That's what they're saying?
I'm just suggesting that maybe we look into this Burisma stuff, That's what I think, is that it might be time to look. I see you want a little economic support, huh? Well, I just think that maybe you might want to consider looking into all of this malfeasance.
You know what's been great for the last 60 days or 90 days? I haven't seen Giuliani in any story.
Oh, wow.
Anywhere.
He really is
It's almost like he's dead.
It really has.
Which would not be a bad thing.
It's fallen off the face of the planet at this point. What a story that'll be one day. One day when they do the rise and fall of Rudy Giuliani, that will be a documentary.
4 seasons.
Oh, my, the paint coming down his face.
But they thought they were booking the Four Seasons
hotel,
Hotel
no doubt.
in Philadelphia.
And somebody will try to explain. Again, this is Griffin. Griffin doesn't really know America's mayor. Like, he does not really understand that the world was his oyster. He was the most popular man on the face of the planet.
Because he was the mayor of New York?
Post 9/11.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He handled 9/11.
And was a beloved figure. Like
coming out of.
I'm telling you, he was the most popular coming out of 9/11. The way that he handled himself and was the most popular
man. He really
man.
parlayed that into a great life, didn't he?
God. Wild. That's a 30 for 30. That's a 30 for 30 one day. Anyway, so
deprive in advance.
We're doing the math on when we needed to leave yesterday because we're like, hey, we're not going to be late. That's one of the things I said to Griffin. Like, you can have the other ticket, but understand we might have to duck out early because we got to be, we're
What
going.
time did you have to be there? At 6:30?
The game started at
6:40,
7, so I
right.
just wanted to make sure we were there
6:45.
by, set up, everything.
Right.
So that was my
That was about
goal,
when we got
was
there,
by
ended up,
6:45,
yeah.
right. So I said, hey, that's the deal. We might have to duck out a little bit early. And ultimately, we were leaving. We started walking out as the top of the 9th inning was getting underway. And the game was 11-3. I said, hey, I don't feel really all that bad about this. We're walking out of the stadium at the top of the 9th inning.
Glad you didn't feel bad.
You got a free ticket. Shut up.
I miss Keegan Aiken's great innings.
So we start walking in that direction, and right as we're approaching Topgolf, we notice there's a train.
That's always a good start. You know what I had happen to me down in Sarasota? I was picking up Luke. He wanted to be at the ballpark on what morning was it? It was Saturday morning. They were opening the clubhouse at 7:30, and I said, I'll get up early and take you.
Okay.
I was staying about 3 to 4 miles from Luke's hotel. I got within 9/10 of a mile, 7/10 of a mile. There's a railroad track.
Yep.
Railroad track closes.
Mm-hmm.
There was no train.
What?
What? Stayed closed for about 27, 28 minutes.
Okay, that.
And it didn't. Police finally arrived, directed some of us to this little trail. And I said, "Oh, great! That'll probably bypass the whole thing." You went down the trail, then you made a right, and it took you back out to the
So you had to go all the way back?
No, took you right back into the traffic. But there was enough space. I finally, even in a rental car, I said, I'm going to go. Other cars were doing it. I went over the median.
Oh, okay.
In a car,
all right.
and didn't crash the bottom of the car.
Well, there you go. That is a little bit concerning.
Yeah, unbelievable, though, that happened.
Griffin was like, hey, how many more train cars do you think we'll see before the end of the train? And he's like, let's set the number. And I was like, all right, we'll set the number at 27 and a half. And he was like, it's crazy. And I'm like, all right, fine, 20 and a half. How about, it was like 50 that were still left.
60 or 70, yeah.
It was
5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Oh, more than
10
that.
minutes?
15.
Probably 10.
15
yeah,
minutes.
10 to 15 minutes that we were. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Good. Yeah, that was a healthy wait. Let that train. At one point, there was a car that had nothing on it, and we thought that was the end.
And it had
it was
empty. Slowing down as well.
It was
so
just like the
it was like a bed.
the bed. That's all it was.
Right.
It was just the bed, and we're like, oh, it's over. What the hell?
There's more cars.
And then we were like, well, what if we just hop over?
Yeah, could we have just climbed over the bed as the train was moving? Then there was also a ladder to a bridge for workers
you guys
to use.
were waiting to get to your car?
Yeah, we were walking to the car, and the train.
How much more pedestrians were?
Oh, it went from like when we got there were maybe 50 people to
were
being
to
like 500 people by the time the train. It was nuts. It was nuts. But we still got the sports and social. We had a great time. Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by Atman's. You know how much we love Atman's. What's not to love? The hand-rolled bagels, the corned beef piled high. All of the deli sandwiches are sublime. The desserts. We don't talk enough about the desserts at Atman's. Fresh baked goods, plus the soups. It's just the best place there is. And you guys know that. You've been going to Atman's for forever. Now there's a new Atman's, and it's in Harbor Point. And it's got a
bar.
Yes, it does. On top of everything you already loved about Atman's, now you have a bar to hang out, watch the games, enjoy a beverage. It couldn't be better. AtmansDeli.com is the website to find daily specials as you're headed down to the ballpark. Stop by Atman's Harbor Point this weekend.
The Big O.
Orestes Estrada?
No.
Oh.
Tyler O'Neill.
Oh, okay.
That's a home run.
They're giving him the Big O.
I mean, they're gonna have to now. He has homered in 5 straight.
And Ryan
opening
O'Hearn
days.
came off the bench and had a nice pinch hit yesterday. Why is he not the Big O? He's bigger.
Well, I didn't get to come. I didn't get to see it. I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you saw. Were you up peeing? Because it happened while we were still at the game.
That what it was? Oh, okay. Yeah. Either way, Tyler O'Neill 5 straight opening days now. That is the all-time record consecutive opening days with a home run after hitting it was the go-ahead homer and the Red Sox win over the Mariners. He broke it was a 4-way tie. So there were 3 other players who have done it 4 consecutive times.
They have homered on 4 consecutive opening days?
Yeah.
Really?
There are 4 other players that have done it.
That's very random.
Yeah.
I thought I heard how many times?
O'Neill has done it 5 times.
5 times. That's what
the
I
record.
thought I heard.
Yeah, that's the record.
But there are 4 players.
Yes.
That
Well, there's 3 now because O'Neill broke the tie.
No, he was the 4th, right? So there are 3 other players
From
who have
94 to 97.
94 to 97. Ken Griffey Jr.
No.
Frank Thomas.
It was a catcher.
It was a catcher.
Yeah,
Mike Piazza.
No. It was. I mean, I don't think you're gonna get it.
Okay.
Todd Hundley.
Todd Hundley. How about that?
Had 4 straight from
All right.
77 to 1980.
77 and 1980.
Yes.
Andre Dawson.
Gary Carter.
Was it all catchers?
Yes, because also this other one is also a
What?
catcher. Yep. From 1955 to 1958.
Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra.
All right.
4 straight opening day home runs.
How about that? That is random.
The Arizona Diamondbacks, Snakes are very much alive.
Snakes alive, yes.
As they set the opening day record with 14 runs in 1 inning. That is the most ever in an opening day single
Seems
inning.
good.
Yeah. Also, that is the 4th most all time ever in an inning. 14.
And thoughts to the Rockies, who I believe were mathematically eliminated from the postseason.
That is, I believe that is how it goes.
Do they still exist?
The Rockies, yes.
Rockies?
I believe they're just a money laundering scheme though now at this point.
I think so.
Arizona did lose yesterday.
Rudy Giuliani's involved.
I say that like Nolan Jones is. It's like the Rockies don't have some players.
Charlie Blackman's still. Chris Bryant is now in.
That's right.
Colorado.
Chris Bryant's a Rocky. That's so weird.
Who else is? That's it.
His career really went
right.
places,
Like
didn't
he was a star of stars.
Yeah.
Like I would have bet anything on that guy. That is wild.
Arizona in the last
Did Kyle Freeland pitch yesterday?
He did. Yeah.
He's the only Rockies pitcher I could name.
Well, won't be able to name him for long. 'Cause he
couldn't
probably
name
won't be a
another
Rocky much longer. Arizona has now lost in their last 6.
Oh, we were
going
to do that game today, Griffin. Did you? Oh, way to go! I told
just
you
name
yesterday.
players?
No, the guys that you don't realize where they are now because they were
okay.
quiet moves in like the off season.
Adam Frazier.
He's a
Kansas
Royal, right?
City.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's a
Yes.
Royal. No, I know where like former
Kyle
Orioles.
Gibson.
No, we know where those guys went. It's like the guys that you don't realize. Like I just pulled up the Rockies roster. I had no idea that Cal Quantrill was a Rocky.
Oh, I knew that.
See, and that I said yesterday, Stan will do well with this game.
Chris Paddock.
Minnesota Twins.
He is a Minnesota
He
Twins.
was. He's not new to them.
Yeah, I know, but I
right.
still remember
Go
when I
ahead.
saw that.
Who else?
Okay.
Give
all
me,
right,
shoot
one.
me, shoot me something.
Yeah, we were supposed to play this game.
All right. Well, there was a lot of other tidbits yesterday.
Yeah, this was more important,
Okay.
This is a
Griffin.
better tidbit.
Sorry.
What he gave me the other day, he made me like name all the Ravens draft picks for like a 5-year span.
Wow.
Because he gave me a year, and I was like, well, you got to remember that was when I was covering the team. So
I just
Mitch
I just have
Garver.
one question.
Mitch-
Who?
Mitch Garver.
he's not still
He's
in
with
Seattle.
Seattle.
He
Yeah,
is with Seattle.
I was going to
Okay.
say.
That was,
He
well, that was
signed
new,
as a
right?
free agent.
Matt Chapman.
He's with San Francisco.
Yes.
These are not small moves.
This guy.
These are major free agents.
This guy
Okay,
over
I'll
here.
name the most random guys.
You're
ever.
going to have to
Right.
really.
Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah. He is in Pittsburgh.
Good.
I
Very
did
good.
not
Yes.
remember that. I didn't remember that at all.
How about Marco Gonzalez?
He's also in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pittsburgh's got a weird.
How
This
about
is-
Martin Perez.
He's also.
He's naming all the Pirates now.
Ahmed
Roberto
Rosario.
Clemente. Roberto Clemente.
Rowdy Telez.
Pittsburgh Pirate.
Pirate.
Wow.
Yeah.
The answer to everything.
Ahmed
Yeah.
Rosario.
Pittsburgh Pirate. Who?
Ahmed Rosario.
Ahmed Rosario's with the Tampa Bay
He
Rays.
is. Yes, he is.
See, I do the baseball
Jose
power
Caballero.
rankings.
Yeah.
He's with the Tampa Bay
Yeah,
Rays.
he is. I didn't mean to do back-to-back Rays. Joey Gallo.
He's a
He's
national.
with the
He is a
Nationals.
Yeah.
John Birdie.
Birdie's with the he's with the Yankees.
Yeah, just got
But so
traded.
is the other Birdie, Burdi, is with the Yankees. RDI. He's a pitcher.
Oh, okay.
They've had him for.
He's gonna get shelled when he plays the Orioles. Let's see. Eddie Rosario.
He's with the Nationals.
He is with the Nationals. Luke Raley.
He's with Seattle.
He is with Seattle.
You're going to have to try harder to beat this guy.
I know.
You're going to have to try harder with this guy. See, this game is very different than if I had been playing it.
Harrison Bader.
New York Met.
Yes. Let's see.
He's a fantasy baseball player. so you're
Ryan
gonna-
Jeffers. Yeah, that's an easy one.
He's
He's
still
a
with the
Twins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Even I knew that
Throws
one.
in guys that were
Exactly.
still with
Yeah,
the Twins
right.
last year.
Shohei Ohtani.
God, that one I can't remember.
Zach, your boy, Zach McKinstry.
He's still with the Tigers.
Yes, he is. I'm trying to find. I gotta find more guys that.
All
are
right,
on
this
moves.
didn't go. I
Gio
wanted you to
Urshela.
prep this.
Who?
Oh,
Who's the last one?
Gio Urshela.
he's a Tiger, right?
He's a Tiger.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is a
Very
Tiger. Okay. Guess that's all I got. Kevin Kiermaier.
Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Blue Jays.
Yeah. If I'm
Always
getting
a
him,
chance.
if
Always a
I'm
chance.
getting him, this guy.
Always a chance he might be on the move.
Wherever he is, he's probably killing the Orioles because it's all he's ever done is kill the Orioles.
What concept are we coming up with for the calendar this year?
I don't know what
Ramon Laureano.
I don't know what the story
with the
is.
Cleveland Indians.
The Cleveland
Guardians.
Yeah. Laser Ramon.
Razor Ramon is ours, right? Isn't that?
Is that Razor Ramon is Ramon. Laser Ramon is Ramon Laureano.
Manuel Margot.
He's with the Twins now.
Paul DeYoung.
Who?
Paul DeYoung.
Yeah, I have him on my fantasy team. White Sox.
Poor son of a bitch.
Doesn't know what hit him.
Poor guy. I feel bad for him.
Joey Votto.
Well, I mean, he's with the White Sox, so he had to know it wasn't going to be good.
Joey Votto's
Blue
with
Jay.
Toronto.
Oh, no.
Toronto, yes.
I want to make sure he made the team.
Did he make the team, or was he on the IL?
Yeah.
He's on the. He is. Yeah, his ankle thing right now. He will.
I think he's going to have a few things this year.
He's going to be battling with Daniel Vogelback, I guess, going back and forth maybe. Oh, there's one. Gave it away, I guess. Daniel Vogelback.
Oh, yeah.
Toronto
Apparently Toronto.
Blue Jay.
Yeah.
Toronto.
Trent Grisham.
New York Yankee.
He is a New York Yankee. Yeah, that's sorry.
Yeah.
Edward Olivares.
Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep.
You haven't come up with one that he hasn't gotten.
I mean, Stan's really good at this. I don't know.
I know. I told you.
Not very good at most things.
Yeah, right.
Garrett Cooper.
Garrett Cooper.
Yes.
He's with. Wait a minute. Garrett Cooper. Is he with?
We did it.
You got me. He's. I know he's playing for somebody.
He had that bat last night.
He was a Rocky, right? He used to be a Rocky.
He was a Yankee, a Marlin, and a Padre.
Who is Garrett Cooper with?
He was an All-Star in 22 with the Marlins.
First baseman, right?
Yes.
Saw it the other day. Did not Washington? No. You got
I looked
me.
it up. So
Got me.
Yeah, he is a Chicago Cub.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. We got him.
Thanks for playing, Stan.
Yeah, right.
You just can't hack it.
I lost everything I won.
Right. Couldn't go 400 for 400 or naming every team player in baseball this season. What a bum. It's like Corbin Burnes yesterday. Couldn't even retire every hitter he faced.
You know, I had Shane. I have Shane Bieber on my team.
Yeah.
There's not a lot I'm going to brag about on my team this year, but struck out the first 6 guys.
Very nice.
He
Pretty
faced
good, yeah.
last night.
I had
struck
his
out
strikeout number
11
yesterday, so that was-
altogether.
A lot of people hopeful about Shane Bieber maybe being a Baltimore Oriole at some point. Although if Bradish and Means are good, maybe starting pitching is not going to be a need for the Orioles.
Speaking of Corbin Burnes, 11 strikeouts, most by an Orioles pitcher on opening day since.
Mike Mussina had 11 in
What
like
year?
1988.
Add 10.
98.
98.
Yeah,
And then
1998.
Dave McNally has the record of 14, 1970.
Wasn't even going to ask it.
Look
Yeah.
at that guy.
Um,
Look
well
at that
done.
guy. Can you name the other guys that had 9 strikeouts in their Orioles debuts?
9 strikeouts.
This was a ball-busting list. This one.
Eric Bedard.
How about Rocky
Not-
Coppinger?
But that's a hell. All right, hang on. So the
Storm Davis?
3 players had not Storm Davis.
Okay.
Had 9 strikeouts in
their
their
debut.
in their Orioles team debut.
Like over the last 2 decades.
It Stan, this
to go
is
5
I'll
innings
give you
in
the
their
years.
debut.
I'll give you the years.
Go ahead.
The first one was in 1956.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
All right.
Charlie Beeman.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
His
Charlie
name was on
Beeman.
the tip
Yeah.
of my tongue.
Then September 1st, 1978.
78. Oh, God. Still have no.
Sammy Stewart. Sammy Stewart,
Good
9
old
strikeouts.
Sammy Stewart.
And
that
then
was
on
as a relief pitcher, I think.
Was it? Wow.
Could have been. Go ahead.
July 24th, 2000.
2000.
Yeah, it's as random gets.
Jose Mercedes.
It's a hell of a guess.
Rodrigo Lopez.
No. More random than that.
Bruce Chen.
John Parrish.
Oh, jeez.
John Parrish. The last to have done it.
Those are the 3. So Corbin Burnes joins that
the
list.
illustrious list.
I'd really be curious. I really
wanna
think
know
that
Sammy Stewart?
I really
All right.
think Stewart and Parrish were both as relief pitchers.
I know Parrish pitched a lot as a reliever, and so it's possible he came in like the 3rd inning of
So
that
did
game.
Sammy Stewart.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. What can we just can we do enough here?
I'll do one more. So Burnes also Orioles pitchers with 11 strikeouts, no walks, and 1 hit or less allowed. Corbin Burnes did that. How many other Orioles pitchers have done that ever? 11 strikeouts, no walks,
Normally,
one
this
hit.
is where you tell us that 3 other guys have done
There's
that.
been one other guy
guy.
ever do this in an Orioles uniform.
Sidney Ponson.
Is he well known?
Yes.
Wally Bunker?
He's currently on the team.
He's currently on the team.
So John Means.
Yes.
In the no-hitter.
Yep, John
yeah,
Means in the no-hitter.
in
The
the
only
no-hitter.
other time
Yep.
an Orioles pitcher has ever had 11. That comes from Jason Katina on MLB.com.
By the way, I got my list from Jake Rill, and John Parrish did start that game.
He
started against Roger Clemens.
And since we
Yankees?
Yes, a bit of a mismatch in
I'll
that
do
pitching.
one more since we mentioned Shane Bieber. He had his 3rd opening day start with 10 strikeouts. That puts him one shy of the pitcher with the most, who has had 4 opening day starts of 10 strikeouts. One pitcher has had 4 opening day games of 10 strikeouts, and he is now tied with 4 other guys for 3 opening day starts of 10 strikeouts.
Sandy Koufax.
Not Sandy Koufax.
Roger Clemens.
Not Roger Clemens.
Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson has had 3 opening day starts of 10 strikeouts.
Tom Seaver.
Not Tom Seaver.
Nolan Ryan. Justin Verlander.
Mm-mm.
Frank Tanana.
No.
Ferguson Jenkins.
No Fergie Jenks.
But, of course, he did redo my backyard. Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson has the most opening day starts all time. 4 opening day starts with 10 strikeouts.
10 strikeouts.
With 10 strikeouts.
That's it? Or is there one more?
There's 3 other guys that are tied with Bieber and Bob
Jesus
Gibson.
Christ. It's 12:31. Can we please?
No.
Greg Maddux.
No.
Tom Glavine. John Smoltz. Steve Carlton. Roy Halladay. God.
Mike Mussina.
No.
Jim Palmer.
Mm.
I'm angry now.
All since-
Jack Morris. Burt Blyleven.
All since the 90s.
All since the 90s.
The ones that you have
Max
named.
Scherzer.
Max Scherzer is one of them.
Oh, good.
Clayton Kershaw. Adam Wainwright. Cliff Lee. Pedro Martinez.
Pedro Martinez. One more.
Very good. You're
Mark-
getting them, Glenn.
Mark
Knock 'em
Burley. Jake Peavy.
Temporary, very, very temporary Oriole. Not technically not an Oriole, I guess, because he didn't really pitch.
Jim
in the big-
Tomei.
No.
Temporary Oriole, but he didn't really. Oh,
Kevin
God.
Millwood.
No, not Kevin
Santana.
Millwood. No. They're kind of like
Felix Hernandez.
Felix Hernandez.
Felix Hernandez.
Pedro, Bob
Felix
Gibson.
Good way to put that.
Bieber
is
and
a
Scherzer.
temporary Oriole.
Yeah, but he wasn't. You're right. Like he never actually was. Sammy Stewart also did start that game. Went 5 1/3 that day against the White Sox in a 9-3 Orioles win. Oh my! All right.
Keep going. Oh, I do have one more Birds. All right.
No.
No more.
Well, I'm not going to make you guess it.
No more tidbits.
It's 12:32. We gotta go. Tubular.
I'm on overtime.
Right? Jeez. Tubular is brought to you by Superbook. Again, the final weekend for you to use the codes Glenn Clark 23 or Stan Charles 23 when you sign up at superbook.com or download the Superbook app. Use the code Glenn Clark 23 or Stan Charles 23 and you'll receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose. All right, here we go. This weekend, college basketball tonight, CBS, NC State Marquette, 7:09. Duke, Houston, 9:39. TBS and True TV, Gonzaga, Purdue, 7:39. Creighton, Tennessee at 10:09. The women's games are all on ESPN, and they're starting them at 2:30 with Oregon State, Notre Dame throughout the course of the day. Indiana, South Carolina at 5 is the big one.
When is the championship game of the NIT? Is it this
next
Tuesday, Wednesday?
I think. I believe.
And
Or
is
maybe
it-
it's Thursday.
Is it a
because-
final now? Utah against?
No, they still have to play the semifinals.
They still have to play the semi. That's right.
Semifinals,
That
yeah.
was
Is
the
it Tuesday,
quarterfinal.
Thursday, maybe then?
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday, Thursday.
So are there games like on Tuesday?
Yes, I believe it's Tuesday, Thursday in the NIT. Loyola cross tonight on ESPN Plus, 7 o'clock against Lehigh. Maryland baseball against Michigan at 4 o'clock on Big Ten Network Plus. Tomorrow, Masson, Angels, Orioles at 4. Griffin Canning, Grayson Rodriguez. ESPNU, Michigan, Hopkins lacrosse at noon. Big Ten Network, Maryland, Michigan women's lacrosse, 12:30. ESPN Plus, Albany, UMBC lacrosse at noon. Colgate Navy lacrosse at noon. Flow Sports for Stony Brook, Towson lacrosse tomorrow at noon. Big Ten Network Plus, Maryland, Michigan baseball at 2. The Elite Eight tomorrow night, TBS and True TV for Illinois, UConn at 6:09, and Alabama, Clemson at 8:49. The Iowa women play tomorrow at 3:30 on ABC against Colorado in the women's tournament. Stan, you out of here? Just packing up. All right. Very good. Very good.
He's listening.
No. I just didn't. I was going to say goodbye and then plug in everything. Sunday, Masson Orioles, 1:30. Reed Detmers, Tyler Wells. Big Ten Network Sunday night for Maryland, Penn State lacrosse at 7. The Hoops games will be on CBS on Sunday in the afternoon. We just don't know, obviously, yet who's in them because that depends on what happens tonight. Everything else, go to glennclarkradio.com, including the return of the debut, I guess, of the UFL this weekend.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that'll be for you and not for me. Anything non-sports-wise?
Speaking of gentleman shows, Gentleman in Moscow. This is the Ewan McGregor.
I bet it's not as good as The Gentleman.
Maybe not, but it is Ewan McGregor. So he's like a Russian guy, and he gets sentenced to prison. I feel like did I tell you about this?
You
But
did.
It comes out today.
Yeah.
And he's like in prison in a grand hotel, and like he befriends like this girl in the hotel. It looks pretty good. Unfortunately, no one's gonna be able to watch it because it's on Paramount Plus Showtime.
What's the deal with this movie? The coming attractions are so violently but exciting. The Monkey Man.
Oh, this
They're
is
saying
Jordan Peele.
this is the best action film to come out in a decade.
I saw that.
It's Jordan Peele, so
Patel is in it. Is that his name? Patel.
Dev Patel. Yes, Dev Patel.
What else has he been in?
He was in. Oh God, Dev. Now you. Sorry.
There's
I'll
a
tell you in
Steve
2
Martin
seconds.
documentary as well on Apple TV
Oh,
Plus.
is there?
coming
I'll
out
watch
this
that.
weekend. Steve Martin, in parentheses, a documentary in 2 pieces is the way it's titled.
Wait, why do I know who Dev Patel is? Because his filmography is not.
He's like a.
Why do I know that?
Is he a musician or something?
No, he's not a
He was in
musician.
The Green Knight.
But I don't think I ever saw The Green Knight.
Green Knight was you weren't missing anything.
Okay.
Depending on who.
Yeah.
Slumdog Millionaire. I mean, I don't know.
Wasn't that? Was he? In
Oh,
that
he was in
movie?
Slumdog. Yeah, he was in Slumdog.
Oh, he was in Slumdog.
Yeah.
Was he by any chance in that movie that came out early in the pandemic, The White Tiger?
I don't think so. I don't think he was.
Is It Cake season 3 on Netflix?
Can't miss that.
And then those are the those are the
Everything
big
else,
ones, yeah.
GlennclarkRadio.com.
Rami Youssef is hosting SNL.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Travis Scott is the musical guest. And then of course Sunday night WWE biography Roman Reigns.
Well,
on A&E.
can't miss that. And you didn't even mention
And Parrish with Giancarlo Esposito on AMC at 10 o'clock.
And there's a Curb on Sunday night,
the
right?
penultimate episode of Curb.
Really? Are we down to 2? Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, now it makes me sad. Now I'm sad.
Sorry.
All right, thanks today to Stan. Of course, thanks also to Doug Glanville as well as to Gabe Lacques. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. The bat around tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., back to a normal schedule for Paul and Ryan. And then Reed and I will be together Sunday from 12 to 2 with you on Easter over on 105.7 The Fan. Stuffing things on Monday. Thanks to everybody at PressBox. Thanks to all of our great sponsors and partners, including Ruth's Chris, Live Casino and Hotel, Atman's Deli, A.J. Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Superbook Sports, Glory Days Grill, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. At Stan the Fan for him, thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. Go local lacrosse teams. Dukes up.